Hey, welcome to the Roundabout cast. You guys didn't say anything right as I started. I'm so happy.
Welcome to the Android episode. We've all been replaced by androids.
Yep, I was gonna do a robot voice, but then I didn't want to humor you.
Aw.
I'm your podcast host, Willer.
I am Android 18, Bradley. Wait, fuck. Android 18's the girl one. Which one's the guy one? 17?
17 or 16 or 15, like you could have.
Literally any of them.
You could have picked any other. But hey, she's the best one, so.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Do you,
She's
baby? the truest joy in that godforsaken world.
Who are you, Joe?
Joe.
Hello, I'm Joe. I'm Robo Tiger.
Cool. I'm just a
That's
human.
it.
That's it. I'm just a human here to talk to you all about some video
Riley,
games.
If you could be a robotic animal, what robotic animal would you be?
I'd be a robotic human, aka an android.
You can't escape the android reality. Let's go over what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3's DLC, which I've been playing a lot of. We're going to talk about Runeterra, which recently came out, and you guys have been playing.
And then we got some movies today.
Then we got an assortment of movies for you all, and then me and Joe are going to do The Good Place finale cast.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Bradley could be here. Oh, I don't know if Bradley should be here.
I don't think Bradley should be here. With that being said, let's roll into topic 1, which is my KH3 adventure. So, earlier this... at the end of January, basically, Kingdom Hearts 3's DLC came out for a whopping $30.
Ugh.
And some free changes, so even if you don't buy the DLC, I believe you still get some really good changes, such as way better combos for Sora, so he just moves snappier. He feels great now.
Yeah, I've realized that when I was playing. I was like, wow, I don't remember it being this, like... Because I've been playing a little bit, too. I don't remember it being as, like, smooth when it came to hitting enemies, because I remember that was kind of like a thing. But I did feel like I was transitioning from enemies as well. For like Kingdom Hearts 2.
I don't think you equipped the new abilities, Joe, so that's probably a placebo effect.
Might be a placebo effect. I don't know. It's also just I haven't played the game in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a year. It's been a year since the game came out.
I feel like when I want to jump into the DLC, I'll probably like start a new file first and then play through the whole thing and then...
That's what I'm doing.
I did that. I lost my save, as we all know from the big PS4 incident of 2019.
Well, I didn't have a choice.
I already had 80 hours into that game between my first playthrough, between level 1 that I was partway through, between some critical I was partway through. Anyways, restarting on critical was really fun, because this DLC introduces a fun new mechanic called the easy codes and the pro codes. So when you start the game, you get to choose which codes you want. So easy codes are basically cheats you can turn on, which is good if you want to restart the game, Bradley, and you want to kind of and you want to kind of blaze through some of the fights where it's like, I'm just trying to speed up my process here. You can turn on codes such as regen HP, regen MP, kill enemies in one hit, consistently get form changes, infinite.
Can you turn on the code from Lego Star Wars that puts the broken C-3PO on your back?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, you can't do that.
Damn it.
So those are the easy codes, which is nice because, as I'll get to later, even in beginner, and standard, the DLC is incredibly tough. So I feel like for people that just want to get to the story, that's there for them. But then you got the masochists like me, and we got the pro codes. So pro codes are codes you can turn on during most bosses in the game, and they range from reduce your HP, your defense to its initial state, reduce all of your stats to their initial states, drain your HP and MP constantly. No links, no shot locks, no transformations, and you get to mix and match. Each one of those has a varying difficulty. No items, no cures, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the more you have on for each boss, you get scored. And there's a very strict ranking system where to get an A rank by the end of the game, You need to roughly have 70% of the codes on for every boss, including the DLC, and you can give or take some codes here and there. So I think that's a fun way to play. That's probably going to be my next playthrough, try to get an A rank, because I really underestimated those codes and how hardcore you have to go to get that A rank. Like, there's 500,000 points in total, and you need like 360,000, so a good chunk of them.
Why not S rank, Willer?
There's no such thing, Joe.
Oh, that's a shame.
Weirdly enough, for a Japanese game, they like to go to S. That aside, we get to the actual DLC, where to get to DLC, you have to have a clear file. So after you beat the game, you just boot up the DLC. And a few spoilers here, Bradley. Just conceptual spoilers about the DLC.
Yeah.
It helps explain the finale of the game and like that final sequence where there's some weird time traveling shit that goes on, as you'll recall, and it's like, wait, what is happening in any of these scenes, really, because it's Kingdom Hearts. And in Nomura's head, it makes sense, but he's like, well, I guess I'll make a DLC and properly explain how this all came to be. And it comes together pretty nicely, you know, as far as...
I was like, alright, cool.
Yeah, as far as Kingdom Hearts can go, it really helped. And what it amounts to is you get to redo all the fights that you do in the Keyblade Graveyard, so all the organization fights, but there's some new ones in there, because time-traveling Spirit Sora has to hop between the hearts of all of the Keyblade wielders, so you're with them at separate points, and you get battles that you didn't before, and that's all fun and dandy. And then you finally get to Scala, the final world of the game, which was just a big boss arena originally. It's actually explorable now, so it's a proper small world. It's really pretty. After that, though, the DLC really pops off, where you get these sequences that might just be my favorite in the entire franchise. They're so good. You get this incredible fight where you control all of the Keyblade wielders except Sora. So that's Terra Aqua Ventus. That's not Kairi. She's dead at this point. The whole reason it's explaining how she got revived. The whole DLC. So you get Terra Aqua Ventus, you get Shion, Roxas, and Axel, and then you get Mickey and Riku. But you're controlling them all as a phalanx formation in the sky. It's so cool. And you're fighting the 13 armors of Xehanort. And somehow they pull it off to where you're seamlessly switching between each wielder and then controlling all 8 of them at once. And there's this really good flow of attacking and blocking. It's a gimmick fight, but it's so well polished. And
it's a gimmick fight that Willer lost like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it was hard. The timing gets strict there at the end and critical. Right after that fight, you get this mind-blowingly stupid but amazing sequence where Mickey Mouse has to fight all 13 of the Darknesses together. And Michael Mouse fucking does it. It's so hype. And then you get the actual final boss of the Remind DLC, which is Kairi and Sora versus Xehanort, and you get to play as Kairi. And Kairi's moveset is fucking great. Just pressing X has her throw her Keyblade, and then it'll just hit him at any distance, and she instantly teleports to where he hit him, and you get the combo. And there's these really cool things where you get this team attack where they attack you together with like angel feathers, and then a feather flies by the screen, and it took me a while to notice, but the feather that flies by has a different memory between Sora and Kairi, and I was like, that's so cute. It's great. That ends Remind. It's like a solid 3 to 4 hours with some padding because you get to redo those fights. But also it's fun if you're like, oh, I just kind of want to redo those fights for fun. You can restart that at any point. But then you get to the real meat of it, which is the Limit Cut episode, which features the Final Fantasy characters and Riku diving into Data Sora 2.0. It's a year later from the story of Kingdom Hearts 3, so it's a proper sequel story. And you get to fight all of the organization members individually, so that's 13 extra fights, plus a super secret boss, which if you saw the trailers, you probably already know who it is, and I haven't gotten to him yet, All I know about him is I hear that if you use the Kupo coin item, the one that lets you like revive after you die, he can steal that item off of you, and then I believe if you kill him, he revives using the Kupo coin.
Oh.
So do not bring the Kupo coin into that fight.
Who is this?
Bradley, do you want to know who the?
I suspect I know who it is, but I'm not sure. So
Nah, you can just look it up, Joe, or play it. Just get there with your easy codes. As
Still in toy box.
yeah, you're still pretty early. As for the data fights themselves, these shook me to my core in ways I was not expecting. These are by far the best content in Kingdom Hearts 3. I'd go as far as to say they're the best content in any Kingdom Hearts game. These bosses are so well designed, but also so bullshit. It's like their attack patterns are insane, and the fact that I've beaten, what am I at?
6 or 7.
11.
Oh, you're at 11 now?
Yeah, all I have left is Xemnas,
Oh, I didn't think it's
which will then unlock Shion and Master Xehanort, and then you get the secret boss. So
that's like the main thing I've heard from this DLC is people talking about these dozen plus super bosses.
they're insane. So Kingdom Hearts 2 had this in the Final Mix edition, and they were my favorite fights up into this. These bosses are even cooler, dude. They're even harder. I can do the Kingdom Hearts 2 bosses in level 1 after many tries, of course. They're very difficult. At level 99 critical, I am getting my ass handed to me, where each boss usually takes at least an hour of trying. Some have gone up to 2, though some of them I just kind of blazed through. Like, who did I beat really fast? I think young Xehanort I beat in 25 minutes, so that was nice. Because fuck that kid. And they're the kind of difficult that's fair, except maybe Syx. I think Syx is mind-blowingly difficult. He's easily the hardest boss I've ever fought in a video game.
Fuck.
And supposedly Shion and Master Xehanort and the secret boss are supposed to be the hardest of the bunch, so I can't picture it getting harder than Syx, because he has moves that are unblockable, which is, there's a lot of that in this DLC batch where you have to really pay attention to patterns, and like a boss might hit you with 1 blockable, 2 blockable, but then a 3rd unblockable move, so you have to know when to dodge, or they're just shooting unblockables at you, or they're doing in delays where they'll attack you 1, 2, and then have a delay so you waste a block, and then 3 comes and it kills you because you mistimed your block.
I remember you saying there was one attack on one of these bosses that you thought was unblockable until you saw someone who's a god online fight the boss, and it's like, oh no, you just have to be really good at the timing.
Yeah, the learning curve is massive. So the problem with Syx is, just like Kingdom Hearts 2 has a berserk meter, that fills up around 2.5 bars of his damage in, and then he goes into this batshit insane berserk. Like, if you guys watch my footage that I streamed of this, it's insane how fast he's attacking. And the problem is, his attacks are letting down these purple shockwaves that are unblockable. And that wouldn't be a problem if every single attack didn't cover half of the stage. So he's doing these multiple attacks where each one covers half of the stage with unblockable hitboxes. And there's a very strict timing where you have to punish him during this. Like, during this entire, like, minute where he can be berserk, you can only punish him, like, 3 times. It's nuts! Yeah, so, needless to say, he was the one boss I had to cheese hardcore. Whenever he would go into his desperation move, I would just pop Simba and kind of hop around until he was done trying, and then pop out in a good timing and heal up and do all that. What's really cool also is how each boss has really unique mechanics. So, for example, Marluxia can set a timer on you, where after that timer expires, you automatically die. So during this time, you have to somehow block his attacks and then hit him enough to break through his armor phase to escape it. And then after you think you've beat him, he has some tricks up his sleeve which are fucked up. You have Um, Luxord is really fun. You have to do all these mini games with him to properly hit him, and I think it's a more well-realized version of Luxord than in KH2. That being said, very confusing on what you should do for those mini games, but eventually when you get it, you're like, okay, this is fun. You get stuff like Ansem can just throw all of these status effects on you, so you can put the, like, Kingdom Hearts 3 has status effects, which you almost never realize during the main game. So I think
I got things that made me sneeze when I was playing today, which I had never seen before.
right, there's the sneeze one, there's the fire one where you hop around and your butt's on fire.
I think it's new because I remember getting hit during the fire section of the Titan fight, and that didn't happen to me before.
No, it's not. Well, a time where I realized it was present was during Olympus, during the part where you have to skate through the fire. If you fuck up in that part, you get that status effect. And then there's one that's a rain status effect, where lightning cloud will be on top of you. And in your command menu, the command lightning will cycle from, like, attack to magic to item to link back to attack. And if you happen to press X when it's on top of the menu that you're at, you get zapped. So I bet you guys didn't even notice these things, even playing on Proud, because it just doesn't come up. Well, Ansem Seeker of Darkness has some news for you. But because I 100% of the game before going into the DLC, I had the items that could negate those, and he was still tough. Young Xehanort got his fucking time bullshit. Man, they're all so unique and fun, and I think these are making me reconsider which combat system I like better between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3, which is the big takeaway here. I never thought I'd say that, because KH2 to me has a perfect combat system, and I talked y'all's ears off about that already.
Yeah, these listeners might not understand how big of a deal this is.
It's tricky though, because KH2 has core systems that work really well together. For example, when your MP is depleted, your drive gauge fills up faster. When you use your drive gauge to go into a form, your MP is fully restored. You can also use your drive gauge to go into a summon, which is like a super support character that follows you around and has a bunch of good benefits. So it all kind of cycles into each other in a really fun way. But then with KH3, you have the shot lock meter, which is only used for shot locks. You have the MP bar, which is shared between magic and limits, and limits you can only use when you have full magic, which I think is a bad idea, because the limit equivalent in KH2, which was also called limits, they were the team up attacks that give you iframes and are very strong. You could just use your remaining MP to do those, which I thought was a good system. But then the trade-off is limits can heal you. They like heal you halfway on critical, so there's that too. Like, it's just a little messier when you get to the KH3 way, but what KH3 has going for it is, I never thought I'd say this, but KH2 has Reflect, which is a very good get out of free card, more or less. You still have to know how to use it, but it's less lenient than blocking. With KH3, all you can do is block, roll, jump, double jump, and air block, and air dash. So within those 6 states, they managed to make these really well-designed bosses that have you utilizing all of those states and knowing when to use them. Air block in particular really changes things, and it just works out a lot better to where the enemy design in KH3 for the data fights are better. Yeah. Because I think of your more limited moveset, which is interesting. And then you got the forms, which are very cool, but you know, you have to build up to use them. You don't get to use them on command. So there's all these little differences that balance them out.
And the super attacks.
Yeah. Another cool thing that these fights utilize is the air step move, where if you lock onto an enemy with your shot lock and you press square, you teleport to them, right?
Yeah.
Which is something I feel like people forget while they're playing KH3, because it's not quite what you remember from KH2. Like, it's not an ability that's there, so it's kind of new and easy to forget. It's really pivotal in these fights, where the bosses have very small windows to be punished. So sometimes you'll be blocking their attacks, and then on the final hit of the attack, they kind of jump far away from you, but they're vulnerable during that time, and it's one of the few times they're vulnerable. So you have to use the air step to dash over to them and start comboing them, which feels really good. So, I mean, yeah, I might explore this topic in the future, but those are some of my favorite combat systems ever. And I think KH3's didn't shine until now because a lot of the bosses in the worlds are the big bosses. And while KH games have good big bosses, they also really shine where there's a good mix of like small human-sized bosses, which when you think about it, KH3 had almost none of.
Until the very end, and then even then they were pretty quick.
Yeah, and the problem with them is that you're fighting 2 or 3 at a time, so you don't really get these very intricately designed movesets.
Very
like,
true.
if
there
you...
ain't no dance, water, dance you have to deal with.
I miss Dance, Water, Dance. Dance, Water, Dance is the fun bullshit. For example, like, if you look back at KH3's bosses, I think the only humanoid boss in a Disney world is Barbossa. No, not Barbossa. Davy Jones. And
even
then
that's barely a boss fight.
I mean, he has a lot of health bars, but you can also crush him if you're over leveled at that point, which is likely.
That was
And then
me.
every other boss is like one of the big variants. You get like the Goop of Horror, which is like, oh, it's the boss that has high defense, so you have to hit it with magic. It's not a very fun one.
No.
I like the Corona one and the Frozen one.
Corona was fun because I had the shooting star. What's it called?
Yeah, the shooting star transformation. So you get the wait. So that's pretty fun.
One of my favorite moments playing the game was there's a point where the monster like comes up on the top of the tower, but you can like do something and it knocks it off the tower.
You just have to get up there. It's dropping bombs on you. You have to get up there and you have to drop it, and then you get to sky drop it.
Yeah, what was great was that like when that happened, I had transformed, so I was just like shooting down towards the thing as I was falling at it. So it was just a cool like, little movie moment.
That's sick.
Yeah.
And then you have the Dark Baymax fight, which is just like a shoot 'em up. That was such a Dark Baymax, good idea. That execution of that fight, terrible. It's one of my least favorite fights. So yeah, there's all these little things.
Well, I have a question for you.
What's up, Joe?
When it comes to like difficulties, because you like difficulty games, right?
I like them.
Okay, so Kingdom Hearts. This is gonna be a multi-step kind of thought process here, so you're gonna bear with me for a hot minute. So Kingdom Hearts has a lot of side content to it. Like it has the Frozen game. It has the Little Mickey Mouse, like 2D Game and Watch kind of stuff.
It's got the pictures that you have to get.
It's got the chef games.
It's got the flans, which
so
fuck 2 of those flans in particular.
Flans are a little bit different from what I'm going with. You'll understand why. It's like those games are outside the normal core, like gameplay loop of the game. Like they aren't like you're using your keyblade to do something. Like the flans are kind of an example because you're
Some of them you are using. Yeah, you're still controlling Sora.
So like when you go to critical mode, do you think those games should also be scaled up to a critical version, or do you think they should just remain?
Nah, they're fine. They're fine the way they are. Some of them are already pretty tough. I'm someone who likes the bullshit mini games in Kingdom Hearts just because, like, I don't know, it's kind of funny to see what they'll come up with, and they break up the combat, and a lot of them are optional, except for Command Board and Birth by Sleep, which you have to play every single board and win with every single character to complete their goddamn journals to get that platinum trophy. It is the most miserable platinum trophy I've ever had to get. Even getting Riku to 99 in Chain of Memories, at least I could just turn my brain off and grind forever. Those trophies I had to be paying attention because I'm playing a goddamn Monopoly board game.
Man, even for someone like me who loves Chain of Memories, grinding to get a character up to 99 sounds like such a pain in the ass.
Not bad with Sora, because you can just use Mega Flare, right? But Riku, as you'll recall, doesn't have, like, slights that you can use. You have to enter his dark mode, and then he only has 3 different slights he can use, so it's...
And even then, like, with Sora, even if you don't want to just go with the most efficient slights for farming, at least you can mix it up and do different play styles, but Riku kind of only has, like, the one set of attacks.
Yeah, so grinding with them. What you do is there was enemy cards in that game, and you put the Lyexis one that gives your attacks a chance to insta-kill enemies, and then you just gotta pray. It's horrible. What was the next steps of your question, Joe? Because I do not.
That was the final step.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah, I don't agree.
Mini games. That's why I held off on the flans. The flan ones are. I don't imagine those would get upgraded by critical.
No, they don't.
Okay.
If they did, there's one of them where you have to take pictures of the flans while they're doing poses, and you have to you only get to take 7 pictures, and you have to perfect them all. But there's like 15 flans where you can choose from. I was so stressed because if I mistime one picture, I'd have to restart it all over again. And then there's one in San Francisco where you have to jump off of flans, but eventually you start jumping so high where you do the free fall animation, and it gets really hard to line up where you're landing. Fuck that.
What do the flans give you?
The flans give you the cooking recipes for fruits, which you need to use for the dessert menu. And once you complete every recipe, you get the cooking keyblade, which is a really cool one because it's a version of the shield one that's fire-based, and you don't get a shitty finisher where you're on the horse shooting lightning, which is the worst one.
I hope you're proud of me. I finally figured out how to use the Dream Meter link, like, the other day.
Hey!
I realized there was a second button. It wasn't just one button to do whatever.
Yeah, you have to do the X to shoot around.
I figured out Ralph. I was proud to know Ralph. I'm like, okay, this is understandable now.
Ralph is busted, by the way. It's the strongest one up until the DLC.
Yeah, I was watching speedrunners use him, and I couldn't believe how much it was just annihilating everything.
Well, you just have to learn how to line up his shit, but it's very powerful.
Yeah.
So I think I will.
It work on the suits though, which I learned. I was pissed off about that.
I will end it by saying, between comparing the two combats of the two games, Kingdom Hearts 2 has a better level 1 run because it's very punishingly hard, but you do a shit ton of damage because things scale better. In Kingdom Hearts 3, unfortunately, your damage with the Keyblade and magic are not great, plus your magic is halved, your MP bar. So it turns out, as far as I've seen, level 1 runs for Kingdom Hearts 3 rely a lot on just Ralph and Ariel and Simba.
So, links.
Yeah, and I like being able to use all the options. Like, I used everything in Kingdom Hearts 2 level 1, and it was all viable. Like, every single thing was viable at a point or another. So it's a little disappointing. I might still try one. What's cool is the easy mode menu has a easy mode setting called Survivor. And what Survivor does is that it triples your stats, but it also triples the enemy stats. So if you do that with a level 1 run, you get this kill or be killed glass cannon playthrough, where you cannot be touched because you will get melted, but at the same time you'll do relevant damage even while you're level 1. So I might actually do that instead. But hey, if you got Kingdom Hearts 3 and you haven't picked up the DLC, story, yeah.
It's $30, which I think is very steep for its price for 10 hours of content. That's for the average Kingdom Hearts player, I would say.
So, tricky thing about that, right?
Yeah.
This is a complicated question. So, if you're super into Kingdom Hearts for the story and the crazy lore, and you want to see how stupid it gets, which is what I'm in there for as well, this DLC, half of it is gonna be minor stuff, and then the other half of it, speaking of the story section, will be new stuff that you're really into. And then after that, you get the super bosses, but then story is locked behind those super bosses, where when you beat the secret boss, apparently it'll very explicitly kind of lead into the next saga of the franchise, right? I don't know exactly how, but I'm very unspoiled, but we'll see. So with that being said, it's very much a gameplay-focused DLC, but there's also important story bits in there, so it's kind of tricky. And it's not 10 hours of gameplay, because depends what difficulty you're doing this on. If you're doing this on Proud and Critical, and you're not a god, this is like another 20 to 30 hours of good gameplay. It's gonna be a lot of you dying, but it's going to be a lot of you learning. Alternatively, if you're just in it for the story, you can play with the easy codes or on standard and beginner and breeze through, but then the DLC will only be like 8 hours for you for $30.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on what kind of player you are. You could look up the cutscenes if that's all you care about.
Because, yeah, the $30 is pretty steep for... Like, I think for someone like you, it's perfect. It's fine, because you'll do all of that content again and again.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. But I can understand why some might.
But, like, to be honest, the only reason I bought the DLC was because it came with a sweet PS4 theme, and I just wanted the PS4 theme.
Well, it turns out the DLC is great, and
Yeah.
it's some of the best gameplay you'll find anywhere.
Yep.
Anywhere. All right, that's good for Kingdom Hearts talk. This was good also because we weren't podcasting when KH3 came out, so we got to get some KH3 talk out in the open.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Discord,
Aqua's a babe.
Dude, Discord got a sweet update now where if you hover over like a message, it gives you like your top 3 like used emojis, so you can just instantly click them to add them.
Right. That's true.
Sorry.
Anyways,
I'm kind of excited.
that's our Kingdom Hearts talk. May your heart be your guardian.
Yeah.
Bradley and Joe, why don't y'all tell me about Runeterra? I haven't even really seen gameplay of this.
Joe will be playing the role of Crotch the Old Man tonight.
And I'll be playing the role of... It's alright.
I'll be playing the role of I come in afterwards and talk about Teppen for 5 minutes, so I'll wait my turn.
Yeah. Joe and I
And Tyler
have different levels of experience with card games. Joe has probably played a lot more digital card games.
I've probably played every card game under the sun.
Sorry about that. My internet just doesn't like working on my laptop here.
Sorry? You're just gonna edit everything together. We could just immediately start it, and they wouldn't even know.
No, because your sentence wouldn't have lined up like that. What do you think this is?
What do you mean? What do you think this is? You just discard the first part entirely, and then we just start over.
Well, I guess we weren't that deep in. Well, it's too late now.
Me and Joe started talking about Pib, and I guess it was too powerful for Will's computer to handle.
Joe was talking about how he's played every card game under the sun.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'll be playing the role of Crotch the Old Man that drinks Pib.
That's. I'm not cutting it out. We already know what role you're playing.
I'm trying to get sponsored by Pib.
Yeah. So yeah, Let's Runeterra. Bradley's only played like Hearthstone.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've played like Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Hearthstone. I played not Runeterra.
Artifact.
I played Artifact. I'll get into Artifact for a minute because it's a lot of similarities to Artifact. And why I don't like Artifact either. I say a lot. It has one similarity. But some other card games as well that I've probably forgotten. But I know I've played a lot of card games. But yeah. So Bradley, I'm gonna have you take over now because I think you're a lot more invested in this game than I am.
Yeah, I was even playing the shit out of it earlier today.
Hey.
That being said, there's a lot of things I really like about the game, and there are some things about the game that are just absolutely terrible from a user experience point of view. I think I might start with what I don't like and then move on to the stuff that I really love, because there are things I really love. So I know that Joe and I have talked about this, and I think this is something that a lot of people really don't like. And this is sort of tied in with a mechanic I do like. So Legends of Runeterra is the League of Legends card game, digital card game, and it contains a lot of the champions that you would know from League of Legends. And a really cool thing is that the cards for the champions, whenever you fulfill certain criteria during battle, they can level up and they gain new stats and abilities, and that's really cool. I think that's a really cool mechanic.
I think it's a really cool mechanic as well.
The thing that sucks about it is the way that the criteria for leveling them up is written on the card.
You told me about this. It was baffling.
Yeah, it's very ambiguous. There's no way to really know what satisfies that condition. Some of them are really straightforward. Like, for example,
Like,
Garen's level
yeah.
up condition is like, oh, if I've been hit twice and I'm still alive, I
If you
level
strike-
up.
So how do they
Yeah.
word that? Just to get some context
They
here.
say, so like Garrett's would say, I will say level up when I have struck twice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
These it says when I have 3 or more spiralings at the start of the round.
When
They're
I
all-
have struck twice, or I have been struck twice.
no, when I have struck twice.
Oh, so when he attacks twice, it activates.
But then like that works for some of them. But then there's things like Zed that are like when me and my shadow have struck the Nexus twice, which in my brain makes me think you have to strike the Nexus twice with both of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is how that. There's also like, I just picture shit like when the moon in the pale night covers the clouds, I get +1 attack.
Yeah.
The thing that really confused me is the difference between champions like Teemo or Ezreal and Lux. And here's the thing that's really confusing about it. Teemo and Ezreal
Yeah.
can level up even if you have not drawn them yet. Because like I think Ezreal's is you have to have targeted 8 different enemies this game. And so if you've targeted 8 different enemies, he will level up even if you have not drawn him yet, even if he's still in your deck.
It's the kind of effect where it's like cumulative versus like after I've been played or drawn kind of thing.
Yeah. Here's the reason that's confusing to me is because Lux's level up condition is I level up when I've seen you play 6 mana worth of spells. So she's not going to level up if she's still in your deck, but I'm like, okay, maybe that makes sense because if she's in your deck, she can't see you cast the mana, right?
Uh-huh.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, if I have her in my hand, she can see, right? No, it doesn't count if she's in your hand. You have to actually play her onto the board.
Ugh.
And it's like, how am I supposed to know that unless I've done it before?
Okay, so say they fix up the text or add additional text to clarify this. Is this a good card game?
I think it's I think it's fun. It has some really clear problems, and it
think
could
it's
be a
all
really good card game up until it is not a good card game, which is what happens to most card games.
Yeah.
Um,
So like that thing about that, Willer, to me, is that's more of a that bothers me in the sense of like a seasoned card gamer where like I want the card to refer to things in game terms on the card. I don't want to refer to itself in the first person because that confuses me when I just want something to say like when I just want to say like when this card or its copy strikes the Nexus twice, and or its copy strikes the Nexus twice, pull this card up. Like I need it to be like clearly defined.
Yeah.
It'd be great if there was an option to like switch that over because I don't like the cutesy text about all of that.
Well, Teppen, fun
Yeah.
fact number 1, they have the description of the card, and then they also have the flavor text all in one
Yeah.
UI window, so you can get your flavor text and you can get your description very clearly spelled out.
Yeah, that's what
Now-
most card games are like.
Now, Joe, outside of that, do you think this is a fun game? Is it structured? Is there a good meta right now? What's going on?
I haven't looked at the meta really, but for me playing it, the big thing for me is so the number one thing for me is that I really right now the only deck that I see that is very unique in the way it plays is the Teemo deck, and it's a deck where you basically plant bombs in the opponent's deck so that when they draw them, they get damage over time. So it's kind of like it's their version of a mill deck without having to print mill cards because being milled feels bad because essentially, I don't know. Do y'all know what being milled means? in
Yeah,
card
I
games?
know, but you should explain. This sounds
Yeah.
like I don't know.
true.
I do for real know, but you should explain it just in case people don't
Milling
know.
basically means that you play a mill deck is basically a deck that aims to force you to discard cards and discard from your
Yeah.
deck.
It tries to
and-
win by card out.
Yeah, basically, and it does two things. Number one, it it makes it so that you lose by running out cards. Number two, because you're getting rid of so many of your cards, you basically can get to a state where your deck is now useless and like you can't use it anymore because you discard your combo piece, or you've you've just run out of steam, or
All that to be said, this tactic does not exist in Runeterra.
it doesn't right now. I don't know if there's a maximum card size or hand size. Do you know, Bradley?
If there is, I haven't gotten to it. Because like in Hearthstone, it was pretty easy for me to get to max hand size, but here, no matter how crowded I think it is, I can still draw more.
Yeah. So one of the big key differences in Runeterra and other card games is that essentially you don't have a turn. There is a round, and someone has the attacking priority or not. They've been basically one person gets to say they want to attack at any point during the turn when it's passed back to them. You go back and forth playing cards. So on a turn that you would play a card, you can choose to attack. Your minions.
So you can infinitely keep a turn going until one of you declares an attack.
Right.
Pretty much, you can keep going until either both players have passed or
you've run out.
Literally, both players cannot do anything.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That is a structural thing that I guess a thing that was weird to me is that this game seemed really vanilla from what I understood. It seems like Magic, and it doesn't have the Hearthstone leaders. It's just pure cards, but then you have special cards which are the champions.
So that's so the way so when you make a card game, everything has a card structure. Yu-Gi-Oh! I think has the least like card structure to it because it's like you just have to have 40 cards in your deck or more.
Yeah.
But what Yu-Gi-Oh! Limited is that a lot of cards refer to other cards you have to use them. It basically limits your card pool anyways. It's kind of like the way it's designed. Magic has its color system. Hearthstone has its classes. This game, basically, you have two different regions combined together, which is okay. I just feel like these regions are very boring. I feel like
what's like the archetype of each region? Is there one, or is it just like each region can play a couple of archetypes and yada yada?
The Fallen Isles, that deals more with like ghost stuff and like killing your own minions to resurrect them, that kind of thing. Black basically. Demacia is more defensive orientated and
green.
Big minions kind of, but not really. The one with Darius, I don't remember what its name is, Bradley.
It's red.
Is that Ionia, I think?
It might be Ionia.
If Darius is in it, it's probably the red archetype.
Yeah,
it's red.
That one's more aggressive and like it has like better like kill spells in it. And then there's the Teemo one, which is just fuckery.
Blue
so,
purple.
There's things in there. It's just every card in there is just extremely basic.
Yeah, maybe it's an early game. Like,
let's
see what it's like 2 expansions from now.
Yeah, but it's 100. It has 162 cards right now. Hearthstone.
Is that low for an opening? No, I mean, no, that's fine.
Not for a digital card game like this. Like Hearthstone usually gets around like cards go. But like, there's nothing really interesting. Like the only interesting cards I feel in the game are the champion cards. And here's the second thing that's brought about the champion cards is that the champion cards are still cards. So like when they die, they're gone.
That's weird to me. I felt like, I don't know.
So like, okay, so I'm going to go into Artifact a little bit because funny enough, this Artifact has the same exact deal where you go back and forth on your turns. Like you play through a thing and then you give it to someone else and so on and so forth. With some differences being that at the very end, everyone attacks and there's a random like arrow thing that points to you. It was a whole clusterfuck, but it keeps the back and forth thing. One thing that Artifact really did that I really liked is that the hero cards that you chose, when they die, they get shuffled back into your deck.
That's cool.
So that way they come back, which reflects like in MOBAs when your heroes die, they're not gone forever. They get resurrected later. And I feel like that's a big thing in this game that I really wish it did because like you build a deck around these characters, and they're the most interesting cards in the deck. But I feel like 95% of them just die way too quickly, and they're not worth having in the deck. Like, I don't think, like, very rarely do I play a card or a champion card and it's like, okay, now it's gonna stay there and it's gonna help me like propel myself to win. Like, I'll play Elise, and Elise just dies immediately because Elise is super weak, and like the keyword on her is super misused and it's not properly done, and I have my problems with
Oh, your old man's coming out. Get back in the
because like she's like the only one after like Teemo that has an interesting card gimmick and how to build around your deck, I feel. While the other cards are very generic. The other one being Hecarim, that does with like these monsters that disappear after they attack or if they move around. And it's just I don't know, like everyone else just seems very, very basic. It's online, like people complain about Brown because it's so powerful. It's like, oh, we can make the minions attack into him and they can level up super easy. I'm like, no, you just have to actually account for him and know what he's gonna do. He's super easy to play around. Just get used to a card game. But like,
can I interject?
Yeah.
And go on my Teppen rant or spiel.
The best card game.
Teppen is the best card. So I did. Wait, yeah, Joe, do you have more crotchety old man?
I do.
You had one more point, I think.
Yeah. Game's boring. Oh no. The other thing is, I don't like the going back and forth aspect in this game. It feels like it takes forever.
And it feels kind of unintuitive to me. It took me a really long time to actually figure out the flow, even with the tutorials.
But
maybe I'm dumb.
You pick up on stuff very quickly because you just watch like tutorial videos and you're like, I know the meta. Yeah. Like that's the kind of guy Bradley is.
But like I played a game and I feel like I'm sitting there and I'm just waiting forever. Like I feel like I don't know if it's just because people on the other side don't know what they're doing, if it's a lag thing or whatever. It's just like it feels bad to play because I can see a combo in my hand. It's like, oh, I can do this, 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 but I have to wait 3 card plays from the other person for me to do it. It just feels bad because you're sitting there like, all right, I have to play this.
All right, that's enough. Teppen time. I'm getting that seems very frustrating.
It is because it's like I once again, like and that goes back to my big thing is that right now the turns just resolve around that one attack cycle that happens in each phase. I have yet to play a game where it's not a bad idea to attack. Like most times you should just attack because either you're gonna hit something, kill something, or you
get advantage.
Yeah, it's just it all revolves around that, which is okay, but there's so much more you can do with the card game that makes it more interesting than just forcing your minions to attack. And that's the other thing, you don't control where your minions attack, you just go forward. And like it's like that in Magic, but in Magic there's a whole other like sequence of events that can happen during the phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Teppen, right.
They talk about Teppen.
So this is a card game. This is my digital card game. I made it.
Yeah.
It came up once in this podcast during Game of the Year where Joe slighted me.
Oh yeah.
Because he didn't download Teppen on his iPad and he regrets it.
It's on my iPad now.
It is now. Teppen is a digital card game based on Capcom franchises, which automatically makes them cooler than frickin' Teemo or whatever. What is even Artifact? Who's man's?
League of Legends? It's all League of Legends people.
No, Artifact.
Oh, Artifact? Artifact's Dota.
Ugh. League characters are cooler looking than Dota. So Probably. I won't say if it's a better game. I think so, but anyways. So what Teppen does, and hearing that out just makes me refreshed at how different Teppen is. There's 2 things in Teppen that are really great. 3 compared to everything you guys have been talking about. Maybe even 4 if I dare. But one of them is that there are no turns. You play your cards and they have a standard speed at which a line will go from card to card, and that's when they inflict damage.
See, counterpoint, that's kind of one of the things why I don't like Teppens, because I like the card games being tactical turn-based thing that you can think about during your turn. But go on.
There is that phase to it. I'll get to it in a second.
But still timed.
Yes. Secondly, but it makes the games quick, and you don't have this waiting for a turn to end, Joe.
No, I agree on that. I'm just saying that.
A second thing I really, really like is that there are only 3 monster lanes at any given time. You cannot have more than 3 attacking units on the field. It's structured so that you can get a board advantage. You can clear out your opponent's board, and you will have 3 monsters attacking consistently. But this is such a big deal because I think it's so boring to run into the decks in card games, in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or especially in Hearthstone, man. Where just in a turn, they have 7 units lined up, and you have to make your comeback with your 2. Somehow they balanced it to where with those 3 boards, you can have all of the strategy you need, and I think it really benefits from it.
I think that A, I'm going to have to repaint some of this shit because I fucked up, and B, I think, and counterpoint to that is that I like those phases because if you plan for them correctly, you can utterly shut down an opponent in 1 turn, and that feels good to me.
There are the equivalents of that in Teppen, like the people.
I should also phrase that I think Teppen's actually a good game. Like I think it's a good card game service on the phone. I just don't enjoy having to constantly have to think about where to throw my cards up.
It's like 2 minutes, baby. It's like 2 minutes of thinking.
Card games should last, but to me, a card game lasts usually 5 to 6 minutes. There's still a lot of time. It's just, but to me, I don't like having that pressure of making a tactical choice within that time frame.
So let's talk about the tactical period in Teppen. When you play a spell card, once you play a spell card, your opponent gets 2 free mana. Mana is refilled just over time. It's called MP, and you just play and whatever. When you play a spell card, your opponent gets 2 free mana to their pool to start countering you, and then you go back and forth in a turn system until it's your turn and you don't play anything. You just let the effects play out, and then they play out in the order that you play them in reverse. So you get these cool scenarios where it's like, okay, I'm going to buff this card. Psych, I'm going to destroy that card with an attack. Psych, I'm going to put a shield on it. Well, double Psych, I'm just going to straight up destroy the card, which goes through shields. So you get these really cool counterplays, and they can be timing based, which is fun. Another cool thing.
That's every card game, though. It's just a lot more.
It's very up in front in Teppen. I feel like from the first day you're playing.
Oh yeah,
you will come into the scenarios where you're doing these split-second saves.
That is one thing about Teppen, and now we're on the Teppen cast. But when you do that, it does feel like a DBZ moment where you're throwing fists and blocking fists at the same time, kind of deal.
It's when they're clashing in the sky and they're just sound waves. That's Teppen.
Which is really cool. It really does feel like that. It's just a personal preference for me.
Joe, you also haven't played many structured decks in Teppen. You were there pretty early, so you don't know what it's like these days. You don't know the struggle, man. So champions in Runeterra, they just seem like basic cards, and if you lose them, they're lost.
Yeah.
Your champion in Teppen is like a Hearthstone champion where they have an ability. What's really important about this is each character has 3 different abilities, and you choose one per deck. So, for example, Ryu, the most basic character, he can, 1, do 7 damage to a single unit targeted. He can, 2, power up damaging effects in your hand or in your field by +2 more damage. Or 3, he increases the attack and adds the combo modifier to a unit, which means when it attacks twice. 3 pretty basic abilities, but it means Ryu, once you see one, that you have to check out their super because it can completely alter the kind of deck that Ryu might play. Ryu is also attributed to red cards, so he can only play red, but you can color mix in this game, where if you want to play red and black, all that happens is your mana pool is reduced to half, so you can't play above 5 MP monsters.
That's cool.
And if you go for 3 colors in these really big brain decks, you only have 3 mana to work with. but there have been some really good decks made with 3 and 4 colors and such. And each card you play has a mana cost, and depending what that mana cost is, it charges up your AP, which is what you do to do your supers, by that amount. So if you play a 5 mana cost, you get 5 back. So it just all works really well, and the meta's grown really fun with each character that releases. So first we got Jill, that came out with Explore cards. So when you play an Explore card or it triggers its effect, you get to add a specific card to your EX slots, which you only have 2 of. So you also can't do the Yu-Gi-Oh thing where you just draw like 5 cards in one turn. At most, you can have 2 of those special cards, and you have to start using them to get those slots back. Then you get Nero, which came with a growth mechanic, which is you play a monster, and then other monsters you play on to the side of it, depending on their cost, it will trigger an effect. Cool. And like these monsters have levels, so like there's a Nero card that at the level 1 level up, it gets a shield. At level 2, it gets more health. At level 3, it gets an attack, depending on what you play. So that's like a basic example. And most recently, you get Akuma, which Akuma lets you play cards on top of other cards, which if you do that, that card gets a bonus. Yeah, so it's like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Sacrifice mechanic, where I'll play this weaker card and leave it on the board until I have enough to play a stronger card, and if I play it on top of the weaker card, it actually gets a bonus.
Yeah.
And there's just all sorts of effects and cool decks out there. Even though right now Chun-Li is a menace, but people are learning how to put up with her because she has a move called Yawn, where if a monster dies, you get 4 MP back. So you get with Ascension, which automatically kills your own monster. You yawn a monster, you kill it by playing a monster on top of it. You get a bunch of MP back.
Damn.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all I have for Tap Talk.
I think that, but like to go back to that, I think that's the biggest problem with me on Runeterra, and I don't know about you, Brian, because you love Lux. But I feel zero connection to the cards. I felt more connection playing Teppen and Little Tower I did with the Boy deck and Mega Man and Ryu, because I feel like those are a lot more iconic to me.
Boy is the Monster Hunter character, Nergigante. Just saying.
That's the other thing too, is like, so it's something that Hearthstone did when it started off really well, is that the cards that you had were spells and abilities you could cast in the World of Warcraft game.
Yeah.
So it was cool, kind of like, oh, that's what I remember using this when I played WoW and all this other cool stuff. So you had that feeling of playing the class. I don't have that feeling when I'm playing different regions. Maybe because I know what those identities of those regions are, or because I just don't, they're not conveyed correctly. But I'd rather connect more with the champion than I would with the region. And I think that's a big kind of misstep they did, rather than have it, I don't know.
See, when I think of a League card game, I think of like you're either playing a champion like Hearthstone and Teppen style, or those champion cards are super duper cards like an artifact where they might come back, and then your spells would be like Thresh Hook or Lux Ray and stuff like that, right? But it seems like the filler cards are just randos from the League of Legends world that no one cares about League of Legends lore until maybe now. So I don't know, except for Tyler, who's not here to defend himself. So
Bradley, do you have any?
Yeah, I will say, like, I have fun playing this game, but I probably would not be playing it if it didn't have certain characters that I like Lux.
Yeah.
I like if this game launched and it had just other characters that weren't League characters, I probably wouldn't be playing it. But I do have fun with it.
I think that's a big thing is I've like, and I'm not a person that really that is very much like connected to gameplay. So number one is like I don't think the gameplay resonates with me that much, and it doesn't help that none of the cards and their abilities resonate with me either. Like I feel like I'm just playing random stuff.
To end on a positive here, what this game really has going for it though is that it's a Riot game, and it's the second Riot game.
Yeah, well, that's a big fucking deal.
And what this means is you're gonna get a very, I'm gonna guess, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong. You're gonna get a very clear like launching application. You're going to get very consistent servers and matchmaking. You're going to get very good stat tracking. You're going to get very detailed patch notes. Riot has some cultural problems, but as far as transparency with the community and putting out a good polished product, I would say they're very good, right?
Yeah.
So I think you can expect that from the lifelong term of this game.
Yeah, I feel like I just feel like the game is missing out on some. It's just missing out on some like individuality when it comes to its cards. And I feel like it just needs to be like, oh look, this is like Garen's Shield Defense or Garen's Strike, or because you can get those cards, but you have to to get like the ultimate or like special ability of a character. And I like this kind of is that you have to have that champion on the field, and you have to draw another champion card, and that champion card transforms into their spell card.
Oh,
And then
cool.
when you play that spell card, it goes back to the deck.
So you get to recycle it.
Yeah, but which is cool. But the problem being there is that champions don't last long enough for you to actually use those cards and use them.
Is there a Gangplank character?
There isn't.
Is there a Nami character?
There isn't.
Is there a Nautilus character?
Nope.
There isn't.
Fuck this game. We're done.
Well, I do want to say one more positive note. I really like the monetary system for this game. You can't. I kind of do, and I like the monetary system for what you purchase. I don't like the free-to-play system for just gaining stuff. Monetary-wise, you buy coins, and you can either spend the coins on packs, or you have a weekly assortment of wild cards, which you can purchase with your coins. Those wild cards can be turned into any kind of card relative to its rarity. So you can buy like a legendary card, wild card. So that way you can just straight up buy cards rather than having to like open up 50 packs and hope you get the cards you want.
Yeah, it feels a lot less predatory to me. You know, instead of having to open a million packs and hope you get the one legendary you want, you can just be like, okay, I want to buy this legendary card.
Is there a crafting system?
There is.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Crafting systems are great.
Yeah, but the other thing is, on the flip side, is that you can't earn any packs via free-to-play. You can only earn, like, the craftable materials.
Oh, that kind of blows.
Yeah, so it's really free-to-play.
Wait, I don't like that. I don't know about that one, Chief. Well, when they add the good champions, maybe I'll check it out.
When they add the good.
Yeah. That's Runeterra and some other card games also.
Where's the schedule for tonight? Because I saw it posted earlier.
Well, Joe, I'm glad you're asking. As I started recording, the next thing is movies. Me and Bradley have watched an assortment of movies that we would like to talk about.
Oh man, and I don't watch movies often.
That's true. That's why I feel comfortable spoiling Midsomma right now in this podcast.
Yeah,
more or less.
Like, back when it was coming out, I remember we kind of thought we might want to watch it, but we never got around to it. And now that you've watched it, I'm kind of glad I didn't waste the time or money watching it.
Wait, what does that mean?
It sounds like there was some really negative reaction.
Oh yeah. Well, Tyler hates this movie, and we were gonna go at it, but Tyler got demoted from being a employee of the month by not showing up tonight. So I will just talk about Midsomma myself. I will say, when I finished this movie, I was so confused, and I feel like that's a very common sentiment because it's hard to even explain what this movie is.
Yeah.
As I thought about it more, I came around on it more. I don't love it, but it might be pretty great. It's weird. Ooh. I think it's totally worth watching. Let me just open with that. But you might not like it. It's very different as a film.
It's like Death Stranding.
Death Stranding is fucking brilliant, man. I don't know. This might be brilliant. There are some brilliant things about it, but the premise of the movie is a girlfriend and a boyfriend. The girlfriend has some mental instabilities. Her family is known to have these issues. The boyfriend doesn't really want to be with the girlfriend, but he also doesn't want to leave her because it's like, oh, what if I want her back? And also there's a slight guilt of leaving someone who's so mentally dependent on him.
Yeah.
It's mostly selfish, but there's some selflessness there. And the worst possible thing happens to this girlfriend right around the time where the boyfriend's considering breaking up with her. So 6 months later, they're still together because the situation just got very sticky, and the girl's still recovering from the trauma that happens early on in the movie. Dark stuff happens to her family. We'll just say that.
Okay.
And the boyfriend plans to leave and go visit the Midsummer Festival in... Oh god, is it Norway or Sweden? Fuck.
Okay, well this is cool because I didn't know that the title was actually referring to a festival.
Yeah, Midsummer is a festival. I don't know how much of this is based on real life. I think actually a decent chunk, maybe. I don't know. But the boyfriend is gonna go there with his friends. I'm gonna say it's hold on, fact checking. Midsummer, Sweden, Swedish, Norway. Both pop up with results.
I think it's
Google big booty Puerto Rican goddess.
Oh no, there's multiple Midsummer festivals around the
really?
world.
Wikipedia page. It's in Sweden.
Thank you, Joe. This is what I pay you for. So, Sweden... Sweden, right, there's the Swedish guy of the group. There is the fuckboy of the group. Did you ever watch Bandersnatch?
Oh, that's the Black Mirror thing, right?
The Black Mirror thing? None of y'all watched it?
Nope.
Okay. Well, one of the characters from Bandersnatch is in this movie, and he's the fuckboy of the group. He's like, yeah, we're gonna go to Sweden and fuck Swedish babes. He's so annoying, but he also has some really funny lines. Cheaty's in the movie. He is the third friend. Cheaty is working on a paper. They're all anthropology majors, and he's doing his thesis over the Midsummer Festival.
Yeah.
And the Swedish friend grew up in a village in Sweden. And the festival's going on there, so he's like, guys, I would love for you to come and visit. Turns out he grew up in a weird cultish, village. And it's weird because they're very open about their practices, even though to us they seem sometimes inhumane and incredibly fucked up and weird. But to them it's just like, nah, dude, it's great. You can leave if you want. And so they're gonna go. The girlfriend weasels her way in, and she goes along for the ride, even though she's not really mentally up to it, but she also doesn't want to be alone for 2 months, which is how long the boyfriend is going. And the movie goes from there. It's shot really well. There's this constant use of a scene where people will be talking. Behind them is a mirror reflective surface, and then people through that mirror will be talking to them. So it's like you can see all the people conversing in the scene, but one of the people you're seeing through the mirror, and the rest of the people you're seeing underneath the mirror, right?
Right.
And it's done a lot because a big theme of this movie is kind of like feeling left out / feeling accepted. And the girl of the group is very left out and not accepted among the group, even though they try to play nice. They really didn't want her to come, and she kind of weaseled her way in. And they get there, and stuff is weird, and there are some genuinely horrifying things, that just kind of happens out in the corner of your eye. For example, there's this time where the camera just kind of, it's doing a tracking shot where it's seeing the group moving, and then it kind of hovers over a tapestry that has some pictures, and the picture's telling a story, and it's drawn really crudely, so you're you don't really pay attention to it, and then you do, and it's like, wait, what does that picture have right there? And then the camera goes by it, so you don't have enough time to register what the fuck you just saw. And it's very creepy like that. There's all sorts of just little background imagery just feels off. It's also interesting, Midsummer is, as far as I understand it, a period of time where there's just a lot of daytime.
Yeah.
So the whole movie pretty much takes place in this gorgeous daytime. And it's really startling to have a horror movie take place during such a beautiful time of nature.
I remember that was the first thing I ever heard about the movie, and I just kind of appreciated how different of a concept that sounds like.
Yeah. And the movie really picks up when they do this ritual where these old people are gonna do this ritual that old people in this village do. And the village has a thing where it's like, oh man, no one ever really dies when you're 76. You know, you just go on to your next phase of life, and it's all a cycle. And shit gets dark with this cycle. And then the problem with the movie arises. It gets a little predictable and also ridiculous. Where it's like, Jesus fucking Christ. It is so obvious that these villagers are doing bad things to you guys. And like, they're so front up about it. And it's just, you step back and you're like, both of you guys, like, both of the sides, the visitors and the people doing it are so clueless / shameless. Where like, they're just shamelessly doing bad things to these visitors, and the visitors are just ignoring it and not leaving, and it's very frustrating. The movie ends just horrifyingly. There's this stretch, like, about 2/3 in that's, like, just generally kind of boring. I think that's why I walked away with such a negative feeling at first, where it's like, I was actually just bored while they're doing, like, this big ritual. It's kind of the titular, like, famous ritual where there's this big dance in the movie, and the girl's doing the dance and the boyfriend's doing something else, and it's just kind of boring during, and it goes on for a long time, and then the movie gets extremely fucked up after that, and it ends in a very shocking way, where I wasn't sure how to feel, and all I can say is that girlfriend's fucked up, and for fairly reasonable reasons, but she did some fucked up things, and that boyfriend, boy, he was not a great guy, but he bad things happened to that man, and we'll just leave it at that. Midsomma, reluctant 4 out of 5. I don't even know.
4 out of 5. Willard, you should see what I posted in the Midcast chat.
Yeah, let's take a look. Joe posted. Yes, there's this tapestry. That's the first thing you see in this movie. The whole plot of the movie is right here, by the way.
Yeah, from
in
left
this
to right, I
tapestry.
believe.
Yeah.
That is an unsettling tapestry.
Yeah, there's
Done.
a lot of unsettling imagery here.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, like, the themes of the movie and how this is a journey for the girlfriend. That's what the movie's really about. A journey for the girlfriend to come into terms with certain aspects of herself is very interesting. Also, there's drug use in this movie that is very alarming. Like, one of the very first ones is they take some mushrooms and then they just chill out in the wild.
Oh god.
And the girlfriend looks down, and the blade of leaves have merged with her hand, and they're piercing her hand.
Oh,
and I'm just
fuck.
like, ugh! And then in the background, like, shit's just kind of squirmy, which is, from what I understand, like, when you take LSD, stuff kind of gets, like, wiggly and squirmy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This tapestry kind of makes me want to watch the movie more, just because it seems really interesting.
You would like this movie, Bradley, and I really didn't. I think I did a good job in not spoiling things, aside from just how I feel.
Yeah, it seems like you have to have a pretty high IQ to understand this movie, so I'll probably like it.
I mean, you're not even wrong.
You could just read the Wikipedia page and then go into the movie so you know what's happening. But
what are you? You sound like my other friend. Anyways, Bradley, you watched 2 movies.
Oh my god.
What you got?
Both of these movies have something in common, and you're gonna cringe when you hear what this thing is.
I'm excited.
Both of these movies are produced by Happy Madison Productions.
I thought so.
They are Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah.
Which is
ridiculous
what?
things. They're Adam Sandler movies.
They're Adam Sandler movies.
Oh.
And the reason I got on this, I went to visit a friend for the Super Bowl this past weekend, and we were flipping through Netflix, and I saw the movie Click, and I was like, man, I haven't seen that movie since it came out.
God, Click is so good.
I remember the second half of the movie was sad, and the first half was kind of funny at the time, but then I was like, I don't know if Adam Sandler comedy like aged well. Like I feel like he kind of had his time, and you know he has some of the all-time classics, but I don't know if he's like that funny. And he's like, oh man, he's like, hear me out. Type in the Ridiculous Six. We're watching this right now, and I was like, fuck it. I guess we're gonna watch the Ridiculous Six. So hold it up.
I've heard of this movie. Isn't it like horrible?
It's one of the. So there's movies that are bad. There's movies that are so bad that they're good, but they did that on accident. This is one of those movies like Sharknado where it is intentionally horrible to the point that it's hilarious.
I didn't know Adam Sandler made self-aware bad movies. Huh.
Yeah, most of them are just bad. This one is like hilariously bad. In a couple minutes in, it hit me what they're doing. This movie, so it came out the same year as The Hateful Eight, and I always got it confused with that movie. And I think it's supposed to be kind of a parody of it.
No, well, no. This blank number archetype of movies is a long
just
time.
A Western thing?
Yeah, like there's the Magnificent Seven.
Oh, you're right.
There's probably another blank. You know.
Yeah.
Numbers were a big thing for westerns.
The Slaughterhouse 9.
The Slaughterhouse, well-known Western.
Yeah, so this movie, it is a Western gag anime in the form of a live-action movie produced by Adam Sandler. The first 3 minutes of the movie, I was like, yeah, whatever. It's classic Western. This guy's buying shit for his horse. There's some dudes on horses with guns. And then some stuff starts happening. So Adam Sandler plays a very stoic Clint Eastwood type character instead of his usual I'm goofy, I make funny sounds character. And so first of all, it was really funny seeing Adam Sandler try to be serious the whole movie. But it really hit me in the first like 5 minutes. This gang of outlaws rides up and they're threatening Adam Sandler and his fiance. And he like throws his bag of flour into the air, and the worst super speed special effect I've ever seen happens, and he runs up to one of the guys and stabs him, and he runs back and he catches the bag of flour, and they're like, oh my god, I didn't even see him move.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be anime, isn't it? And then like he throws the bag of flour at them and then throws his knife so it cuts it, and there's flour everywhere like a smoke screen, and he does like
Sounds
these
like a Bollywood movie.
There's another part of the movie where they have to sneak past these guards, and they're like, how the fuck are we gonna sneak past the guards? And Adam Sandler's character grew up with Indians, so he's like, you have to be one with the wind.
Oh, no.
And he just starts doing somersaults on the ground, and they just like kind of fade in an image of a tumbleweed over him.
What?
And he rolls past the guards, and then he turns back into a human.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
It's so fucking funny.
This is not this.
This seems like Bradley humor. I don't know about this, Chief.
Did you have some additives when you watched this movie?
No.
Okay.
This movie, they know how terrible it is, and that's. I had a lot of fun with it.
So I've seen a little bit of this movie, but it does have one scene that I really like, and it's the baseball scene.
That is the funniest scene in the movie.
Because baseball has a bunch of weird bullshit rules put into it, and they just bring that up because a lot of baseball is just straight up arbitrary nonsense. Like for example, like in the movie, I think like the way home run was invented, but it just went way too far. Like you get to run around all the bases. Let's get a different ball.
He's like I'm not going to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
it's funny because in baseball stadiums, there's no length of your baseball field has to be. It can be how short or how long as you want it to be.
Wait, that's for real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including the MLB? Oh, weird.
Yeah. Same with like strikes and strike zones. Yeah, it's just weird.
The scene is this guy who basically invented baseball, but you know, he basically like extorts the main characters into playing this new sport he invented with him. And he's like, yeah, so you throw it at me, and if I miss 2 times, then I'm out, and if I hit it, I get to go to a base. And he misses the first 2 shots, and he's like, no, I said 3. And so, like, the pitcher throws it again, and it goes really low, and he's like, "No, that doesn't count as a strike. You have to throw it up here where I can actually hit it." And he's like, "That's a ball. If you throw it down there, it's a ball. And if you do that 4 times, I get a base." And then the next pitch hits him in the knee, and he's like, "Okay, well, I just get a base if you do that." Like,
it's
so
kind of just explaining the dumb rules of baseball, which in itself is a funny concept.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's an Adam Sandler movie, but it feels like much more modern comedy than his early 2000s.
It's called The Ridiculous.
The Ridiculous
Ridiculous
Six.
Six.
Let's see what it's rated on Rotten Tomatoes. Do you want to guess what it's rated on Rotten Tomatoes?
Probably not well.
65. No, sorry. No, Rotten Tomatoes. 40.
I'm gonna say like 55%. I don't know.
0%. What the fuck? I've never seen this. Oh no.
Yeah, they were just like, "How do we make
Okay.
the worst movie?"
It might be because it was only released on Netflix, just so you know.
36 critics reviewed it. All of them gave
Okay.
it a negative review, and out of 3,200 audience reviews, there's a 33. So I think we have to put Bradley out of his misery.
Well, we all know, based off of Rise of Skywalker, that the audience reviews are the only ones that matter, right?
I don't want to talk about that movie at all, really. Anyways, Bradley, what else did you watch?
The next movie is even worse, but I still enjoyed watching it. Like Ridiculous Six, I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. I did enjoy myself watching it.
Hot damn.
It's a bad movie, but it's very self-aware with how bad it is, so I feel bad taking off so many points for that. This next movie is also a Happy Madison production, produced by Adam Sandler, but he does not star in it.
Ooh.
This movie's called Father of the Year, and I think the task that this movie is tackling is, can you make an entertaining movie that does not have a plot? This movie doesn't have a plot. You
Jackass
look up
movie.
a summary of the movie, but it does not have a plot. The like key events and goals that are happening change from scene to scene. And granted, how we get from scene to scene feels very organic, but every like 15 minutes of the movie, I'd be like, how the fuck did we get here? Like, it'll start off, main character comes back and he's anxious about seeing his dad for the first time in a few years. Oh, now this dad's fighting this other dad. Oh, now this boy is trying to reconnect with his long lost love from high school. Oh, now this boy, oh no, he has to try to build a swimming pool in this old lady's backyard before the summer ends.
Oh no!
Oh no, now we're in virtual reality and there's a kangaroo fighting a virtual reality pelican.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm not even fucking
See,
kidding.
the thing is, like, the concept of this movie isn't that bad of a concept. Where it seems like it has a pretty good comedy setup. Where it's like it's the classic my dad can beat up your dad kind of scenario.
Yeah, that's how the movie starts.
Yeah, it should like just be a dad rivalry that escalates, but you have to do it at a consistent kind of rate and have an overall goal at the end.
Yeah,
But
and it's just strange how we get there. Like, it just starts with my dad could beat up your dad, and then the fallout of that argument just causes all this weird shit where you have virtual reality fights and swimming pools and fucking it. I will say, okay, I got like 75% of the way through the movie. I turned to my friend. I was like, I don't know what the fuck this movie's about, but I am enjoying the ride.
All right.
I will say, at the end of the movie, and it wasn't until like the last 5 minutes that I kind of even picked up what the themes of the movie are supposed to be. And I do think it has a very sweet message, but I don't think most people who watch this movie are going to make it all the way through to see that message.
Would you care to guess these scores?
They're probably like 2 out of 10.
0. Once again, god tier production right here. And 52 audience score. This is the better movie by the audience ratings. Granted, this only has 300 to the other 2,000. I think this movie might have bombed super hard.
it's a Netflix only movie.
Yeah, both of these are Netflix movies.
I mean, the other had 3K, so...
Yeah.
I think there was a lot more marketing for Ridiculous 6 because I never even heard of this before the weekend, but I always knew Ridiculous 6 was a thing.
Yeah, Ridiculous. I think Ridiculous 6 was the first like Adam Sandler movie that he made for Netflix, part of his deal. Speaking of which, I have two things to add on to this.
Yeah.
There's another Adam Sandler movie on there that has Jennifer Aniston in it. That's called Murder Mystery.
Murder
I think
Mystery.
that's
Let's see.
Mystery.
Since we're already on the Adam Sandler rabbit hole.
I have one more destination to take this Adam Sandler
Yeah, it's called
train.
Murder Mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, Murder Mystery. It's basically Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston accidentally walk into a murder mystery plot line. It's actually pretty fun. It's cohesive. It makes sense, and it's a pretty fun ride. And like, it has a little bit of that Adam Sandler like over goofiness in it. But I watched, I was like, this was enjoyable. I give it a solid like 3.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. It had a beginning, middle, and end, and I had a good time watching it.
The same coveted score as the Ridiculous 6 and only 0.5 points higher than the reluctant 4 out of 5 of Midsomma.
The other movie I want to briefly talk about is a movie called World's Greatest Dad that starred Robin Williams. This goes in the category with Marriage Story and lists of movies that tread on Joe's deepest fears as an adult.
No.
So this movie is about Robin Williams' son commits suicide by autoerotic asphyxiation within his own house.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
And so the big thing about his son was that he was a bully, he was a mean person, and whatever. But the dad does everything in his power to try to like turn his like deceased son's image around. And a big part of that is him coming to realization of who his son was and how terrible of a person he was to the town.
So you're afraid your parents are gonna find out about your collection,
No,
Joe?
it's no. I mean, as a parent, having a child that kills himself and be a terrible piece of shit. But it's a very dark movie. It's a comedy, like a dark comedy, but it's a really dark movie.
88% and 67%. So this is the
No, that's an actual movie. Like, but I remember putting it on one day. I was like, oh, this is a lot sadder than I anticipated. One I would recommend to you, Willer. I think you would enjoy it in its sadness and kind of sit there like, oh no.
That's me, dog.
I thought it up because when Bradley said Father of the Year, I was like, oh, I've seen that movie. I can talk about it a little bit. I just haven't seen it in many years. That same movie, I was like, okay.
That's a higher score on both fronts than Midsomma. So there you go. Have any of y'all? Never mind. I know you don't. You haven't. But who would like to watch Uncut Gems with me, which is supposed to be the good Adam Sandler movie?
Man, I'd like to watch Uncut Gems.
Is that on Blu-ray yet? Like, let's...
No,
No, the good Adam Sandler movie was
It's still in the movies theaters. It's still in theaters.
Oh, people think Waterboy's good, right?
I like Waterboy.
Waterboy's good.
It's a classic.
Happy Gilmore is really good.
You can do it.
Oh, I remember seeing trailers for Uncut Gems, and I remember it because Adam Sandler looks like a douchebag in that movie.
But we went to a movie together where there was a trailer show.
That's where I saw the trailer for it.
Yeah, because you only go to the movies if I'm dragging you there.
Pretty much. I think the last several times I've been to the theater have been with you.
So as it turns out, Uncut Gems is supposed to be great, and it's supposed to make you feel very uncomfortable.
I think Adam Sandler has updated his comedy a lot from his heyday. And for good, you know.
I feel like Adam Sandler.
Hold on, just real quick. I think Bradley's in the minority in that statement, probably. But go on, Joe.
Clearly the reviews aren't on my side.
So Adam Sandler, I feel like kind of likes to do whatever he wants, but every once in a while, I was like, all right, give me a second, and he does a movie, and that movie is actually really good. Like, have you seen Punch Drunk Love?
No.
Punch Drunk Love stars him. That movie is really, really good. Like, it's about relationships and what it means, like, to, like, when you get into a relationship but you fully haven't taken care of yourself lately, so you have to, like, in a balancing the relationship life and, like, taking care of yourself and understanding your problems and how it affects the other person and that whole scenario. It's a really good movie. He basically stars a guy that has huge anger management problems,
and he ends up getting in a relationship with this girl.
That's
I
good.
really liked it. Yeah.
He was in a actors roundtable with a lot of great actors recently, and he definitely like seemed unsure of himself. He's like, "Oh, I guess I did good in this dramatic role, but I was nervous the whole time." So he definitely has it in him. So I'm very interested to watch it.
Yeah.
I know several years ago there was some interview where Adam Sandler said that he's like, most of the time I just make movies as an excuse to see a lot of my friends again.
I think he just likes getting fucking paid because that man has a lot of money.
He really does.
I mean, to be fair, his movies on Netflix were some of the most watched movies of Netflix when they came out.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
but good for him.
Yeah, but good for him. He's got another deal to do another 4 movies for them. Or something
Oh
like that.
no, that's a lot.
That's fine. Like put more.
I
Stuff
mean,
on
Netflix is going over that thing where it's like, oh, they'll take anything, which is not a good image to have. Because when I get my Worms show on Netflix, I want it to be an esteemed platform.
Oh yes.
What about your One Piece?
Ew.
Aren't they making a live action One Piece thing?
Yes, I don't. It's horrible.
Ugh.
One Piece should stay in the manga because even the anime is not good. So what makes you think I could do anything good with that
I
series?
can't wait for
Have they
the
not
anime.
learned from every other attempt to make a live action anime ever?
One Piece is the single worst property you could ever adapt to real life because the characters are ridiculously big and weirdly proportioned.
I
Joe,
can imagine I'm sure they can do the stretching effect on whoever plays Luffy, but it's gonna look weird as fuck.
Luffy is not the problem, Joe. There's a character called Gecko Moria.
Yeah.
Imagine that character in live action. Imagine fucking like someone with the proportion.
Imagine that shot of Teach when we're reintroduced to him in post time skip.
Imagine I could see a really good Teach.
Yeah.
Imagine fucking Usopp and Kaku and their long.
Oh,
What are they gonna
God.
do? What are they?
Yeah, this Usopp nose looks funny to me because there's like one image of the live action.
Shut the
thing.
fuck up, share it. I've never seen it.
I don't know
Are
if
you sure?
it might not be the official one. It might just
I don't
be
think-
something they used for the
It
article.
might be part of like so One Piece has had a lot of live shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be.
That might be it because those get tossed around a lot. People are like, "That's what it looks like." No, those are the ads for the live show. Who else would be ridiculous?
I'm trying to think of the most ridiculous character Bradley's run into. Bartholomew Kuma.
Wapol.
Yeah.
Wapol.
Oh,
I mean, Wapol could be a fat guy. I'm thinking of like Bartholomew Kuma.
He hasn't
And
met
his-
that person. Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
He has. He's like 7 feet tall and he has very small legs.
He's tiny legs.
Anyways,
There's so many people.
good Adam Sandler cast.
Yeah,
I think that's good. Bradley, you good?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Well, on this note, I think you need to leave now, Bradley, because we're about to spoil The Good Place, a show that you will one day watch once you're done watching Victorious Feet shows.
I'll interrupt.
Spoiler alert: there's a character who exists in the Good Place universe, and his name is Darth Vader.
No,
You
that's
thought I
not
was gonna
true.
say someone else.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say that had a foot fetish.
I'm sure there is someone in the Good Place verse who has a foot fetish.
Probably like Trevor.
Oh yeah, you just know.
Probably.
Probably.
All right, have fun.
Or Sean. So
No, Sean wouldn't have him.
I just want to put out in this podcast, Bradley has watched all of Victorious instead of watching The Good Place, the 3 episodes of Better Call Saul that we're waiting on, anything worth his time.
Also hasn't read One Piece.
He
But
also,
we're not gonna blame.
Oh, I will. I'm gonna blame it on Bradley's foot fetish for whatever that guy's shows are.
Dan Schneider.
Dan Schneider.
Anyways, Willard, The Good Place ended last week.
Oh wait, Bradley just disappeared. He didn't.
Yeah.
I was gonna do the hypothetical. When did he
Yeah.
When did he drop out?
Like literally, like as soon as you got started into the whole rant about not watching Better Call Saul.
Oh my god. Well, we should take a break then, so I can segment this out before.
Good. I'm glad that we were both on the same page.
Well, we're recording now.
yeah.
The Good Place finished, Joe.
Okay, so we're gonna get into spoilers, obviously. So to do the preliminary, non-spoiler segment first. Which, first of all, why are you here? Secondly, I thought the ending was fantastic. Like, the more I think about it, the more I fall in love with that ending every time I think about it.
Yeah, that ending is really great, and I mean, we've talked about this show ad nauseum. Like, it's been a bunch of talks. They're not popular talks. Very
but we
criminally
like
underrated.
to talk about it.
But
so
I think we should talk about our overall thoughts on season 4, and then the finale, and then just kind of like the show as a whole. So see, this was the first season that we were watching episode by episode. Well, for me, you might have watched last season.
I watched season 3 episode by episode. I think halfway through it, if I remember correct. Oh, wait, who's that?
That's Tyler, who showed up. Tyler, you gotta leave. We're spoiling the good place. You need to go. You're gone. Jesus Christ. Anyways, so you watch half of season 3. That's never happened before. So watching this show episode by episode is kind of weird because it's hard to see where the show goes, right? But when you're binging it, it's like, oh well, in 2 hours I will know where this is leading. There will be on a completely different plot twist.
I can't believe Gil turned. His name was Gil, right? Turned into Goop.
Or Glenn.
Glenn turned to Goop. What's gonna happen next?
I'm glad Glenn came back. Trevor just died. He gets killed in that one episode.
Trevor got yeeted into the essence of the universe.
Must have been some scheduling conflicts because he didn't even show up for the finale.
I know.
Or he could be a sequel villain. Ooh, oh no. None of our characters are there to stop him anymore. Anyways,
I don't think Good Place is there's not gonna be a Good Place 2.
Yeah.
But
this show finality is a big theme here. So with season 4, it's structured in 2 halves, right? It has the first half, which is the half with trying to experiment on a new set of humans, and all it really shows is that the Good Place system can rehabilitate people, but not everyone, so it doesn't work out. And
or it takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
like the big climax of this first half of the first half of the season is that it can work, but but there has to be time to do it.
Well,
that was the big point.
That's the lesson they took away from it. But yeah, it took Brent like a year to do his first really nice thing, which was when he finally realizes the bad person he's been, and he apologizes. I want to talk about Brent because he's one of the best characters in the show for me. I think he's so good. The chip driver mystery is maybe one of the funniest jokes. I will say, would you say this is the least funny season, maybe?
I think it's the least funny season, but that doesn't make the season bad. It just makes it like... But I think part of that, too, is that season 2 and, season 2 really hit that stride in its uniqueness, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Season 3, season 4 carried
Season 3, half of it is in the human world, right? So
season 3 to me starts to really get really good in the back half when they go back. And
but the first half of season 3 is really interesting because it's tackling the Team Cockroach helping people around them, which ends up being a big thing about humanity as a whole. It's not just them helping themselves; it's helping everyone around them. Season 4 is like that, where I think there's less jokes, but there's a lot of really good plot, and there's still some hilarious jokes this season.
You say that, but God, that Chip Driver episode was
so
good.
Funny. That episode was great. The one thing is, the first 3 episodes of the season felt like the pacing was wonky, right? Because we were getting introduced to John and Brent, and you get the plot twist where the granny is not the granny, but the muscle demon. And then Chidi has to get rebooted, and that's when the season really starts, when Chidi goes in. Which means that
that happens at the very end of the last episode of season 3, because
No. Oh yes, you're right.
Because they had that whole moment where they're like, "Oh, you're going away again, and now we're gonna have our own."
There's some point where the plot picked up around episode 3 or 4.
A good point season 3, I feel like season 4 is the inverse of season 3, where I feel like season 4, the first half of it was really funny.
Yeah.
Like, the last half of it was just very kind of a good, like, solid look at morals and what it means to be a good person, what we need to do, kind of thing. Which is fine. Which I think I prefer it to go that way.
How did you? Sorry. How did you feel about the dynamic of the 4 new humans? Because a lot of the time was spent on them and less on
humans. There's no 4.
Well, yeah, but then Chidi, how he interacts with them is a big part of it.
We've had Chidi before, but yeah.
But him interacting with them is different. A big part of it is that Chidi, he was able to synergize well with the first group, where he was able to make him be better a lot easier. Simone's really hard-headed. She's probably the best person coming in, but she's not perfect because she's so argumentative and she's so hard-headed. And then I like John's character arc. I felt like by episode 5 or 6, you could actually see how he was a better person, but he still had like his negative attributes here and there. But then, so I liked what both of those characters brought, where they weren't like just cartoonishly evil, but they were like on that nice borderline, which is what the first group was.
Yeah.
Like even Eleanor, as cartoonishly evil was, she like has such a good backstory to why she is the way she is. And Brent is the same way, where he's cartoonishly bad, and he just symbolizes this kind of person that's never been told they were wrong. And I thought it was a really cool way to take his character. What you searching in there, Joe? I hear you typing.
I'm telling Tyler that he's okay and that he needs to just lay down and sleep and watch TV because we're bad.
Yeah.
But I really like the humans. Like, was it just it was
Brent, Simone, and John.
John, yeah. Brent obviously was the standout, but the thing about Brent was that he was he was like the impossible rock that Chidi couldn't move kind of deal. So like that just added more to the interesting part. Like, what if like Eleanor was that? What if Eleanor could not like fathom changing herself? Like, what does that look in the dynamic of the group?
Yeah, and it's cool because they introduced a character that was just at such a negative. Like Brent, you could see him being in like one of like the bottom 10 to 15% of humans without even knowing, because he's just like that privileged white guy kind of stereotype. As opposed to like, say you introduce like a murderer or something, he was just like outside that range of like truly heinous people, while still being a like very clear bad place candidate. And I think it's interesting to introduce him, because then like I feel like if they're like, oh, we're gonna redeem a murderer, I feel like people wouldn't have gelled with that, even though it would have been interesting to see. I don't think audiences.
It would have been interesting if they had someone that murdered out of like self-defense or preemptively because something bad was going to happen, or out of rage or anger or something.
Well, like it'd be interesting to see how they would tackle like an objectively horrible murder or something like. But I feel like with Brent, like they got like someone who is in that ballpark of like clearly bad place candidate without being completely irredeemable. And then they get to try to redeem him and show how that goes. And I think that just plays better for an audience. Just like with the finale, like they never addressed what happens if it's a person that never gets good. Like the finale kind of leaves, like the place that they leave the good place in is a place where Hitler would be redeemed. And I think that's a weird concept.
I don't think they say that. I think they say that
they leave it ambiguous.
They do leave it ambiguous, but I think the point is that like, because there's a quick scene where we see Brent in that reassignment room where they're trying to tell him why the thing is like wrong.
that was great, but
so I think the idea is that like, once again, you live in infinity. You can, it doesn't matter how big the rock is, so long as you keep splashing water on it every day, you're gonna weather the rock away.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, let's get to the second half a little. I'll come back to Brent in a little bit. Let's get to the second half where they need to solve the problem of heaven and the good place, and like how are they going to get people into the good place. And then the final step, which we'll say for later, is how can they fix the inherent issues with the good place. So their concept for getting people into the good place it has no, there's no bad place anymore. There's no torture. Like, the torture now is like the control torture that they had in the first neighborhood, where it's like torture to make you uncomfortable and make you become better. But the show doesn't spell it out. But yeah, someone as bad as like a Hitler or Stalin would eventually get better, and it's an optimistic view on humanity. But I feel like in our woke society, this day and age, saying that is like risky, so they couldn't quite spell out how drastic their optimistic view was.
I think it's also like, once again, it gets to a point where people will get to the place faster than others will, to the point where like Hitler might be in hell for ad nauseum because he's Hitler.
That's true.
But so it's just kind of like if that's the case, then you just develop a system that's able to like slowly get to the point. It's not a plot point that's even relevant to think about, I think, because that deals with like 2% of the Earth's like total historic demographic.
That's true. Even less. Like, truly, I'm gonna be optimistic here and say that truly like terrible people is less than 1%, right?
Yeah. So it's like, at that point, you're like, to put them all in a room together and have them have like AA meetings every 1,000 years.
But overall, I think it's a cool system, right? It's
it goes back to like, it's a nice bookend where it's taking the concept that something that should have been bad can actually do a lot of good.
Yeah.
And it's the same idea where someone that is really bad can also do a lot of good if they just know what they're doing.
And that people can improve each other. The sword sharpens a sword.
Yeah, that's the big thing. That's the big takeaway from
the Good Place.
The show is that the Good Place is that it's the people around you that make you better. It's people around you that help you define who you are, and like, if you surround yourself with people that genuinely care for you and want you to be better, you're gonna get better. Whole kind of plot, like, God, like, we have to eventually get, so once we cover like, I think the majority of like the whole plot line, we should definitely get into like the characters, because I just want to talk about Michael's whole arc and this whole show is just magnificent.
Yeah, the place, it's interesting where Michael just he's such an interesting character. Him and Janet are very unique characters, and the whole main cast is great, right? But
yeah, but like, I think it was just a nice bookend to bring all around, where this originally started as a place of hell, like it's supposed to be bad, but we can eventually make it good. It kind of reflects back onto society, like the living, is that it starts off bad and we see it as a negative thing, but we can eventually make it look like a good thing if we try hard enough and we continue to work towards it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that shows up at the end of the show with the idea of what happens when you go back into the universe.
Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah.
The whole finale we'll close out when talking about the finale. But I think the lessons that they learn, and Chidi's background, and all the way he's been teaching everyone, and just the multiple resets and all the trials and tribulations they have to go through, I feel like it's reasonable that these people could construct a good fix for the system, as well as when they instantly find a good fix for the Good Place. I bought it. I didn't think it was rushed, because I was like, they've been dealing with the philosophy of eternity for the past 3 seasons. I totally buy that they could come up with a
I think also the big thing too is like the Good Place was nearly perfect. It needed to be the thing about the Good Place is it's not that it was nearly perfect. It was perfect. It just needs some sort of flaw in it so that you could. The big problem with the Good Place was that because you were there forever and because it was so perfect, you took it for granted every day.
Yeah.
So the point was you had to actually care about where you live. That's why all the good people felt bad, because they don't care that they're there. There's nothing to care about, because when they were alive, they cared about taking care of something or figuring something out or learning about, like, that's the whole, like, they had people to care for, they had something to care for, but now that they live there for infinite, what's the point in caring if you're just here for
You could just, like, also, like, given enough time, you will have done everything. The human mind it can't handle eternity, and that's kind of a sad thought.
Yeah.
For if there is a eternity out there, it's the thought of being trapped in it is now a new existential crisis I didn't know I had, but now I might. But I really like the solution, and some people saw it really negatively when it was introduced, for like, there's just a door where you can go out and end your existence, and people were like, oh, so the answer is suicide? This is really bumming me out. No, like, they lived multiple Baramies of happiness.
The point is realizing. So it goes back. I see it more of as like, funny enough, like a Buddhist enlightenment point. There comes a point where you're like,
I think that's the main inspiration.
It's that you just feel enlightened. Like, like, oh, I have accomplished everything in my being has collectively been made to do. Let's do New Game Plus now.
Not quite. We're gonna
true.
We're going to become a Dark Souls message in another player's world.
Yeah.
It's very near Automata, actually. But that's a whole other thing. How did you feel then about every character's endings?
Oh man!
So we'll go in order. I think they were all really good. So first and third is Jason.
Yeah.
So the episode opened.
That made me.
We'll get to it.
It was so funny. It made me so upset at the same time.
Oh yeah,
but
that last episode was a tear breaker. So Jason is very fulfilled. His dad and Pillboy made it in. He's connected with everyone. He has a loving relationship with Janet, and he's the first one who realizes he wants to go. But
he plays the perfect game of Madden too. You can't forget that.
Can't forget that. Surely. Yeah. I think they should have mentioned them doing weird shit more. Like, you can interpolate that they did, but the things we see in the episode are pretty normal. It's like, I went to France. I played Madden. I was like,
I feel like Jason's the only one of them that was crazy.
I think everyone would be like, all right, today I want to be Superman.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
And I also like the idea that erasing people's minds forcibly is torture as well, because it's torture to the people around them as well, because it's like, I spent 2,000 Baramies with you and now you don't remember me, and like, that relationship that we had is gone, and you don't even remember that you got your mind erased. So I like where they went with it. So Jason goes and he leaves his pendant behind, and we find out later that he spent multiple eternities just chilling in the woods.
Yeah.
What?
Becoming a monk. He literally became a monk, which he started off with at the beginning of the show, which is perfect.
That's so crazy, dude. At first I was like, this is kind of stupid, and I was like, this is also kind of like shows just how zen and fulfilled Jason got. And I think like any
I think that's also
any idea that this is a negative thing, that they're quote unquote dying, I think that goes away when you see Jason, because he was so happy with life that he was just okay with chilling for thousands of years. Now, I don't get why he didn't like call another Janet at that time, or just call Janet. Like, why did he have to wait for her to show up there again?
Yeah, I think
a Rocky.
Yeah, I think you talked about the Jason dumbness.
He's not that dumb,
but I think it was great. Like, it also shows you like the whole point of like where you're trying to get to in this existence is the point where you are okay with sitting on a bench or walking and looking at trees and trying to just kind of like naturally existing in the world rather than having something to focus your brain on. Because the big thing about Jason was that he was so ADHD, he would just jump all over the place.
Yeah.
Now he was just like, oh, I'm gonna stay here.
He became a genre. The idea of dumbass Jason being mature enough to end his own existence really fucked me up immediately when the episode started.
The first one too. I remember I was like, wow.
I can't take 3 more of these.
It was so quick too. Like, my original thought when the show was going to end is that they were going to tackle one last problem together and like, all right, let's go, and they all walk through together. Yeah. Which I'm really glad in retrospect they did.
Yeah, they took it a good way. So his last lines were "Wait up, Cheaty," and then he runs out. just to hang out with his bro as goodness particles. What a fucking legend. That was a legendary ending for Jason.
Remember when you didn't like Jason that much?
I love them all. He's still my least favorite. He's just the least favorite of an amazing group of individuals.
True.
Next up was Tahani, who, interestingly enough, so she comes full circle to where she wants to help other people now. She becomes a architect.
She helps other. She likes helping other people, not because she needs to one up someone or prove something. She just says
it's just fulfilling for her, which is a great character arc.
She also I also love that she was just like, I'm going to just actually master everything. I'm going to take the time and just learn everything. We have a great scene where Ron Swanson evaluates her chair and tells her that's fantastic. And I'm just like,
it could have been Nick Offerman. I think it said he was playing himself.
Yeah, it was playing himself.
So, but I would have liked it to just straight up be Ron Swanson.
But I thought it's just great. Her character I really like.
The fact that she didn't need romance to be fulfilled. So not only does she find her own path, she finds her own path both in the romantic triangles of the show, but also in of eternity. And I guess you just have to assume at some point after Eleanor, she must have gone in at some point, which is sad and happy at the same time.
Yeah, or she's still just making neighborhoods up there for a very long time.
I mean, yeah, of course. Chidi going was fucked up, man. That was so sad. And so the thing that made him go was when I think he realizes Eleanor was taken care of, because Eleanor's mom wiped the thing off her cheek, and then Chidi's mom did it too, and then he was like, look at this, both of our moms are taking care of Eleanor, and Eleanor...
Chidi's mom kissed Eleanor, left the lipstick mark.
Right.
Her mom wiped up the cheek and laughed about it, and
it's a cute thing, and it's simple, and it's just one of those things in life where it's hard to put into words why this impacted me the way it did, but it did, and I like that.
I think the big part of it is there's this. You can talk about one scene that's just absolutely heart melting and
Eleanor crying.
Way. Oh no, I was gonna say earlier when we had the huge flashback segment with Chidi, when he's relearning all of his past segments.
Great episode.
And he asked Janet for the paperback because earlier in the episode he asked, do soulmates actually exist? I think Michael says they don't. I can't be honest with you. I don't know if they do or not, but I don't think they do. And then Chidi opens up the paper and it says there is no answer, but the answer is Eleanor. And it's just it's a moment where...
recontextualizing that's so good.
Yeah.
When you lay it out like that, it's god damn, this show's well built.
Yeah, you're just realizing that Chidi was searching for someone that could really be with him his whole life, and
he found
his
her.
enlightenment point was he found her and then realized that he had made her not only better but gave her the security she needed to exist.
Yeah.
He felt like he had really taken care of this person. And I think to him, other than overall just other than the whole indecisive thing, was this big thing that he wanted to accomplish in life, was to be the person that could drastically change a person's outlook on life and moral philosophy and how to live, because that's what he's a moral philosophy major.
Yeah. I very much like how Eleanor's character very consistently, she was selfish and she wanted to keep Chidi there, and Chidi was willing to do that, but then she's like, alright, I'm being selfish here, you can go. And she's crying where she talks about how she was alone her whole life, and she pretended like she was okay with it, but she really wasn't, and now that she really has a family, it's really getting to her. That scene forked me up as well, dude.
Yeah.
Seeing Eleanor just break down like that was horrible, and Chidi goes through, and then eventually Eleanor does one good last deed by helping Mindy St. Clair, and she goes through as well. Oh, Michael happens.
Yeah, so, but the great thing about Chidi too is that she's just yeah, it's my time to go. There's no indecisiveness. He gets the
yeah.
All right, that's the other huge kind of character moment.
And yeah, a couple episodes before this, he was like, I would never walk through a door without knowing what's on the opposite side, which is very clearly a line where they're like, hey, in episode 13, he needs to do this, so what if I... good writing. Michael...
Yeah,
so,
but
I don't like how Michael went back as an old man.
I do. Okay, I can understand why, but I think purposes of the show, I think it's okay. Because I think the best way to look
They
the best
could
way to
have...
look at it is that for Michael, it's that it was a vacation rather than like a restart to everything. Like
That's not the human experience.
True, but like I think also it'd be really hard to get a young-looking.
No, that's not the problem. They could have fixed this by having him walk in. He's a baby, and then you flash forward to old man Michael. Like, this could have been solved with a 5-second extra addition to that scene, in my opinion. So
That's
that
true,
just felt like
because
lazy
Jeremy
writing. Yeah, because
That's
Jeremy
true.
Baramy, baby.
Jeremy Barry. But I still like overall like his whole like start to finish with this character arc is
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
favorite, I think. Because it's like he starts off with this demon who tortures humans and wants to get back at them, and then he slowly realizes that like the one thing that he really wants to be is human. Like that's the one truth about like the entirety of the show, including season 1, where he gets all giddy about the stupid human stuff that they have to deal with. Because him, like, it's just part of
even
life.
his demonic persona, he still has a interest in humans, as dumb as they are. He can't help but be interested in some of their silly things. So I really liked just him chilling. I really loved the montage of him just doing human things, playing guitar with his real life wife, and learning guitar and stuff like that.
Yeah. Him having a dog named Jason.
Perfect. Who else would it be? Kind of insulting, but whatever. And then, so, Eleanor finally goes in, and we get the reveal that when you go through the door, you become a little bit of spark of goodness in other people. And I was like, that's so cute. That's such a hopeful ending.
It's also great because someone pointed out that as time goes on, people like keep going back to the fold, and humanity will eventually just become good because you just collect so many of the
good particles. The good chemicals.
The good chemicals. But yeah.
So then Earth will be heaven-like. So that's a very hopeful ending. The show it introduces a very tough reality that eternity is not sustainable, but then it ends on a very hopeful note.
Mm-hmm. I thought for a second that like Eleanor was going to become the conscience of someone else. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Well, she became the conscious for maybe one thought, where it's like, maybe I should turn in. And multiple times, and so definitely this season, but I think it popped up several times in previous seasons where Eleanor talks about the little voice in her head that she always ignored. And it's just cool that everyone becomes a little bit of a voice in another person.
Your head. And
like the voice right now that's telling me to say, hey Joe, I like your hair swirl today. Looks nice. There you go. Thank you, Eleanor.
Yeah, God. And then we get the best possible ending line for this show,
which we'll end this podcast on.
Yeah.
You want to just do it? Because I think I've said what I want to say.
I think final verdict on The Good Place is that if you haven't watched it yet, why the fuck are you here?
Oh my god! If you haven't watched it yet, don't. And you don't deserve it at this point. If you listen to this, you don't deserve it.
The Good Place is probably the one show, like, on the list of like things I want to own physical media wise. Colored Steel Ball Run, probably eventually One Piece.
Ooh, baby.
After everything, but I want to wait till Wayno gets more and we can get something in the box.
4 box sets.
Yeah. And I have money again. To get that, and I think The Good Place, like, complete series is something that I for sure want to purchase and have, because to me, like, with streaming, I don't want to run the risk of never having this again.
Yeah.
Because this is a show. This show is 4 seasons long. It's a perfect binge show of length. I can watch it and get through all of it. And feel
Yeah,
okay.
it's really good on rewatches. I've been rewatching it with my friend Kelly, and we just got to the season 1 twist, and she had no idea, and I knew the twist, so I just got to absorb it from someone else who didn't.
Yeah. What was great was that Willer. I remember when I first talking about the show. Willer was just like, if I know the twist already, is it going to ruin anything for me? He's like, no, it just recontextualizes the first season for you.
And even then, like, I was like, with that twist, are they just going to discard character development? No, they're going to do character development in ways that aren't possible, and they're going to tackle the theme of finality of a TV show in a meta way where the finality of the TV show is also the finality of existence. And it's just like, oh, that was such a good marriage of those themes, man. Mm-hmm. Final verdict for me, 5 out of 5. My favorite comedy. Top 5 show easily. Maybe top 3. Yeah. I fucking loved it.
I introduced this to you?
Yes. I mean, I already knew about it. I just didn't know it was so good until you.
I just remember talking back and forth to you for a month, like, just watch the show. Like, no, I don't want to do it just yet. Just watch the fucking show.
That's not true, Joe. I said I would. I just didn't have time at the. You know how I work with my schedule.
It's true, but then again, you all started at the exact moment, like as soon as you finished.
It was the perfect time.
It was the perfect.
Anyways, with that being said. 3, 2, 1, take it sleazy, everybody. And we're live. Bradley and Willer here with Take That You Worm, Arc 28.
Take it.
Take it?
Take it.
Almost done here. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm a level with you all. Arc 26, 27, God tier. Right? I think we can all agree. Those are great arcs.
Yeah.
What we may not all agree on is my feelings on 28 and 29. These are in my bottom 5 worm arcs.
Yeah. There's like there are certain moments I like in these. And I still like the arcs overall, but I think it's sandwiched by 27 and 30, which are like just some of the tensest action in the entire story.
And even taking comparative stuff out of it, I feel like this is the point where Wildbow really started setting up for Ward. As I was reading this, I got such an impression of this is not the time for this. And it's setting up characters prominently that won't be important for the remainder of Worm very much. And they're purely set up for Ward.
Yeah, I know I think maybe one of the only characters in the story that I don't care a lot about is Teacher.
Yes, thank you. Oh God, I have no investment in the Teacher storyline, and it's actually pretty prominent.
It's a really sad thing in a story. Like it could be a show, a book, a game, whatever, when it's very clear that whoever wrote it wants you to care more about a particular character than you do.
Yeah.
Because I think Teacher is being set up as a really big threat.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was like, we already have a really big threat to worry about.
Right. It's a timing thing, you know. It's like the world is ending, and I get it, right? There's all these petty squabbles near the end of the world because we're not working together yet. Because there's still division between us. Cool. You didn't have to spend so much time on it in these 2 arcs.
Yeah.
And I'll get to specifics as we kind of go through it, but it really took me out of it, and I was like, I can't believe we're doing this now after I was so excited at the end of 27.
Yeah, I think for Teacher, like you said, it is important that Taylor sees these like petty end of the world squabbles happening, because it kind of puts her in the mindset she needs to be for later. But I think Teacher's role in 28 and 29 should have stayed as these like petty grabs for power, and setting him up as a big threat could have waited till the epilogue.
And a slight spoiler alert, there's a Teacher section in 30 and in Tenorol, so it's like, eat all this Teacher, and it's just not doing it for me, fam. Also, a lot of Glastic Wenway, and you know, I'm not a big fan of Exposition Queen. But Let's get to the cool stuff here. Uh, my first note here is I really don't care for the teacher sub story. Moving on,
Moving on.
Dragon Secret comes through, which has been built up for so long. I'm surprised Taylor never figured it out. She always came so close, but I loved having that knowledge that she wasn't quite there this whole time.
Yeah, and like this was like a really this is, I guess, heartbreaking. I don't know how to describe this emotion for me, where Taylor had been working really closely with Defiant and Dragon for about 2 years, and were kind of like pseudo parents for her.
I call them mom and dad, yeah, when it comes to Taylor.
Yeah, and like even before that, even back when Taylor was still in Brockton Bay and had to fight Dragon,
Mm-hmm.
they were still able to kind of respect each other to some degree.
Yeah.
And then we get this moment where we find out that like one of the only heroes who would kind of give Taylor the benefit of the doubt and respect her, that Taylor was able to identify with, was not human.
Fantastic. 10 out of 10 realization there. That's great. A big part of this arc is getting the prison crew integrated into the team. So you got Shadowstalker and Lung back in the fold. Not much to say there quite yet. And another big portion of this arc is fighting Endbringers and kind of figuring out about the Endbringers' origins that's somehow being created from Eidolon, which we will talk about in 29, allegedly. That's another thing that I was like, oh man, suddenly also all the Endbringers are attacking, and I don't know if it makes total sense to put on the pressure on the world that the Endbringers are also active now and we got to do something about them. But it was just suffocating with the Scion threat looming, right? Because at this moment, Scion is off exploding other planets because it's a good way to slow down and extend that plot armor to the other universes. But yeah, it just rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, but cool stuff does come from it, such as them bullying the Simurgh.
Yeah,
that was neat.
There's two main aspects to 28. There's like them catching the Endbringers like Pokemon, and there's kind of rallying the troops. And of these two elements, I care a lot more for like rallying the troops than the Endbringer half.
Me too. I concur.
Like I really like teaming up with like Shadowstalker and Taylor bringing Lung into her party.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I like the moments with all of our small scale characters kind of like reeling from the damage of 27 and preparing to do another assault.
It's weird, right? And I feel the same. And I was so invested in the Endbringer plot line up to this point, so I can't really quite put down why it was less engaging this time around. I think it was just a too many cooks in the kitchen, too much stuff going on kind of scenario. I felt like the tender, like personal moments of the prison gang and reeling from the attack were more interesting.
Yeah. At the very least, if I have something good to say about the Endbringer plotline, is that I thought Mecha Leviathan was cool.
Me too. I was just about to say, I was so confused what was happening.
Yeah, at least we got that out of it.
Bohu and Tohu and Kansu are also somewhere around. They'll show up. They're hanging out. Out of my notes here that I really want to talk about, I'm already at 28.6, where we're prepping for the final battle, and Tattletale's getting stressed, and you get this moment of Taylor realizing that for the past few arcs, everyone has been using Tattletale for support for so long. There's been so many hopes on her shoulders this whole time. And yeah, as much shit as I give Tattletale, she has been so clutch recently. And now she's caught an Endbringer like a Pokemon, where there's that really good fan art of a very attractive Simurgh following Lisa around.
Oh man, I just remembered that.
That's woo. My Eldritch Abomination can't be this cute. There's no way. But yeah, like, good job, Tattles. You've been doing great. You deserve some rest and some tender moments with Taylor, before the troubles. There's also a series of goodbyes in 28.6, including Charlotte, Glenn, the lawyer, or is that... No, that's Kaye, right? The lawyer. Yeah. All very touching goodbyes.
Ooh, I need to adjust my top 5 character list real quick.
Oh, gotta squeeze Kaye in.
I love that boy.
The letter to Miss Militia really hit me in the feels. Miss Militia is a character that is up there with Dragon and Defiant as the reasonable people that Taylor never gave as much credit to as she should, because in all her squabbling about not working together, you had these 3 individuals, and Clockblocker too, let's throw him in, as trying their best to meet Taylor halfway, and her being a stubborn knucklehead. So I really appreciate her letter to Miss Militia here.
Yeah, she's always fit just squarely into the she is a hero category.
Yeah. And after seeing fan art of her and realizing that she has an America scarf, at least in the fan art she did, I was like, yeah. Yo, that's fucking badass.
She's a badass.
There's this moment where I think Glenn is telling Taylor to embrace all aspects of herself. Because it's the end of times. You're terrible at being a hero. Not terrible, but you're not great. You're also like a frustrating villain. Just go out there and be yourself. That's the best way you can help save the world right now.
I kind of like his advice. And I think she takes it to heart. In her early days of the wards, they were able to recognize that maybe she would be more effective using her skitter tactics, but Glenn is like, you don't understand how important Image is right now. We need this image of Weaver, not Skitter.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end of the world, when Image matters less, he's like, no, we need all of you right now.
Glenn was fucking great because he was right both times.
Yeah.
So I wonder what all of Taylor will amount to.
I
wonder what happened to them.
Everybody.
So 28 interlude is kind of weird. It's jumping around a lot of characters. It's not your traditional interlude, I feel like.
It starts off following the Simmer. I was like,
very interesting. She talks about her little brother who sees the world as water. She talks about her youngest sibling, which are Tohu and Bohu. And she's just making some weapons and singing and looking after Lisa, and being in the Simmerg's head, it's just too much. It's like, how deep does your 4D chest go? It's really not worth thinking about, because it could go infinitely deep or it could be more surface level, and we may just never know.
I know one guy's interpretation I saw of the Simmerg, and I think it's just his personal interpretation, but I kind of liked it, where for any given event that she plans out, there's like a 99% chance it'll play out the way she intends it to. But whenever you're setting up, like, if you set up like 1,000 dominoes in a row and there's only a 99% chance of each one going off the way it's planned, there's still a chance that somewhere down the line it's going to fail. So I don't think she has like infinite potential to influence the setting of the story, but
very strong potential. Good. I mean, I'd like to believe that. Somehow, like, the idea that every single thing that happened was exactly according to the Simmerg's plan is not that exciting to me.
And the Simmerg pushes up her glasses and there's a glare.
And she's like, ada, ada. So, we also jump to Ingenue doing some shit, and Teacher kidnapping Dragon through Saint and altering her code, and this worried me heavily. If Teacher's out here touching Best Girl and fucking up her code, it got me very worried, and I remember thinking, I really hope it's surface level and he's not fundamentally breaking her. And maybe we'll get a potential answer to that in a later date. But Bradley, is there anything else you'd like to say about 28? Because I've said my parts.
I think I'm good. I think we kind of hit on the stuff we wanted to, and I don't know. We got to talk about 29 too. So
let's do it. Right into 29. Cockroaches, right? Or was this one? One of them was cockroaches. Also, speaking of cockroaches, there was a fun interaction with Taylor and Shadowstalker where she's like, humans are more like cockroaches, where they something they can't kill, and Taylor's like, oh, cockroaches can't kill.
Yeah.
You're not good at being funny, Hebert. Good shit. Anyways, Arc 29 has this really good moment of Grace calling Taylor out for never really truly loving the wards or giving them a chance. Because someone's got to call her out on this. I feel like I'd have more sympathy for Taylor if she put in more of an effort to not just be always connected to her past life. And it's really sad when you think about it, because they've already fought Jack. So all that time she was setting up all these pieces to fight Jack and save the world, and when she realized that didn't save the world, she barely keeps up or thinks about that other team at all. They come up so infrequently after 26.
Yeah, I think we talked about it at the time skip, where she just probably never connected to these people.
I don't see why. They're great.
I think they're nice people.
But hashtag Taylor sucks. So, there's a line here in 29.2 where Taylor reflects on the situation and comes to the realization that in comparison to Scion, they're all just specks. And what do you know? The name of the next arc is Spec, which is my favorite arc name because it just sounds so final and like it's such a strong word to use as your last arc.
That word just bites.
It does bite. At some point here, Taylor says she's doing certain actions because she's a hypocrite, which Taylor has always kind of known the bullshit that she's capable of, but it's nice when she vocalizes it and comes to realization of it. And this is a line that's very direct. I think there's an even better one, I think in 30, but it's kind of reassuring to her that she can accept the fact that she's a hypocrite because she can do what she can do best, which is just what I think it's coming up on a moment where she's worrying about Rachel's dogs, and she's like, is this really the time for it? But like, no, this is, I shouldn't try to do more than what I can. Like, what I can do is support Rachel, and I don't have to think twice about it. It doesn't matter if I'm a hypocrite, because that's kind of what my heart is telling me is right, which I think rolls pretty smoothly into character developments in the later arcs.
Yeah.
What else we got here? So this kind of confused me. There is a big trigger event that happens at this point, and well, it's a trigger vision. It's not a trigger event because, as we find out later in this arc, there are no such thing as triple trigger events. So while I was right that Taylor had 2 trigger events in the past, I was not right when I thought that she had a 3rd trigger event on the night where she got outed. That was a whole different thing, apparently, a thing that I didn't realize could happen, but I guess it did.
I think I'm of the camp that she either had she either had her second trigger event while still in the locker, or I think she might have had it later when they like took her to the hospital. I think my idea for Taylor is that she had her initial trigger event and she's able to sense these bugs, and she's just getting all these like alien sensations she doesn't understand from like tens of thousands of bugs. And then later, I imagine the stress of that probably gave her a trigger event, which gave her like nigh unlimited ability to multitask, so that way all of that input doesn't make her go crazy.
That's a cool way to go about it, I think. Yeah, that works for me. But in this vision, and this is what confused me, she's able to kind of see all the futures where Scion wins, and she's kind of seeing more of the past and kind of understanding more than in previous trigger events. What exactly happened here? I came out a little confused. Didn't really go back and check.
Pretty much all the trigger events of the story up to this point are showing like things that happened to the entities before the events of the story. Like it shows them casting off shards, or like I think it shows like the thinker entity about to crash to Earth, stuff like that. I think what they're being shown here is the moment when the entities were approaching Earth, where they kind of look to the future and decide on a course of action that ensures they'll be able to win no matter what.
So this is a flash forward within a flashback.
Kind of.
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense to me.
I think Scion's like trying to convince them, hey, I've already ensured that you're not going to be able to beat me.
We'll see how that goes.
See how that goes, bitch.
Eventually, Taylor and crew, including the wards at this point, they go to the Cauldron base. Okay. I'm going to say that the big point of Arc 29 is to explore Cauldron's morality by forcing a situation where Garou and Doctor have to converse, and also going into the Contessa interlude, right? I feel like that's the main goal here that this arc is trying to convey, and I like that goal, and I think those parts went really well. I think the execution leading up to those parts are what I really dislike about this arc. There is so much time spent fighting the experiments within Cauldron's base. It's like, and I guess the point there is like, oh my god, Cauldron kidnapped all these people and they're all here, but we knew that. We know Cauldron's shitty and that they kidnap people. I don't think we needed to spend so much time with them fighting these captives and these prisoners and these experiments when, again, Scion is not only a threat, but is literally within the building midway through this arc.
Yeah. I think that might be the same kind of thing we talked about in 28 pacing-wise, where it's like, if we already have an immediate threat, we might not necessarily need to introduce this other immediate threat.
I think Wildbow, he makes sure that every arc has several fight scenes, at least one big one, and stuff like that. And sometimes I feel like he can't help himself but add in more time, more situations for the characters to fight. Perhaps it's all to reinforce the theme of aggression and escalation.
Hey.
But hey, who knows? All I know is I didn't dig it this time.
I think you're right, though, that the parts where like the arc really shines is when we actually kind of get to converse with the Doctor.
Yeah.
Taylor gets to talk to her some, but man, like when Sveta gets to talk to the Doctor, because this tentacle girl's life was just totally stolen from her by this woman, and she's like, and the Doctor's like, I'm like, what do you want me to do? She's like, what can I do to make it up to you? And she's like, if you can tell me my name.
And she couldn't do it.
And she can't do it because she's done this to thousands of people, and she just loses no sleep over it.
Yeah, that chapter of them talking is what puts this arc slightly above 28 for me. That was really well done. There's also a bunch of good little lines, like Cuff asking if they're here to rescue the people, and then she has to look at Taylor and see her reaction. It's like, are we here to rescue people? And then also, you get this beat of Imp saying that Regent was mad that Skitter's being nice, and so maybe I will too. So Regent had this idea that he was frustrated at how Taylor couldn't hold a grudge, and then he started to start emulating her and try to be more like her. You know what? Now maybe is a good time to bring up that Regent funeral scene that we forgot to talk about in arc 26, or was it 25?
Probably, I don't know, was it 24, 25? For like, the past several arc discussions, we keep remembering that. I guess it was 26, the beginning of 26. I don't know. Ever since Taylor got to go back to Brockton Bay to like see Regent's Memorial, we keep forgetting how badly we wanted to talk about it.
I don't even remember everything I wanted to say about it. I just thought it was such a good scene. Maybe you can lead here.
I know that it's just one of the most powerful moments of self-reflection in the story for me, for Taylor, and she doesn't even have the moment of self-reflection until like the very end of what she's saying, because when talking to the memorial, she's berating Regent, saying like, okay, like you did a heroic sacrifice, that was a good thing, but it doesn't change all these horrible things that you've done to people, you know, controlling them, murdering them. It's like doing a few good things or even ending up as a good person doesn't change the bad things you did necessarily. And she's like berating him for this, and she says like, you're a monster, and then at the end she's like,
oh fuck,
I guess we have that in common.
Yeah, it was so good. And you know, as you were mentioning that, and as we just brought up this point where Regent kind of Regent was more influenced by Taylor than he ever let Taylor know, so she has to find out through Imp, right? And I think out of every relationship in this story, weirdly enough, I think one of the most impactful ones, if not the most impactful and interesting one, is Taylor and Regent, because in my mind they have complete opposite character arcs. And what you just said right now is such a good, this idea of ending up on one good deed doesn't fix your life. I mean, we'll talk about it I think later, but yeah, I want to table this Regent Taylor comparison because I think it's one of the most interesting parts of Worm.
Yeah, it really shines, and you know, I hope that if we ever get the final edit of Worm, because Wild Bill still got that cooking, I hope we kind of get more spotlight on like the interplay and relationship of Taylor and Regent, because there's so many moments throughout the story where Taylor can look at something Regent does and say like, that's deplorable, like that's never okay to do, and then several arcs later we see that she's totally fine doing that.
Yeah. Woo, man, Worm is good. So I had another thing to say here, but I can't quite. I was gonna say, what made me so angry that Regent died is that I felt like Wildbow threw away maybe his most interesting character. And I get that he was maybe hard to write around, because it's like doing anything with this character that is remotely redemptive or kind of exploring his psyche might be a little difficult to get into, because it's just so messed up, but also it's evolving every day, it seems like, as he's changing as a person. When, like, as much as I love, say, Rachel, I feel like if Rachel had died there, I would have been like, well, Rachel had a fantastic character arc. I feel like Wildbow really explored her to where her relationship with Taylor at the end had really shown how much she'd grown, or Gru had nowhere to go at that point. Even, like, of course he wouldn't kill Tattletale because she's too important, but, like, those are examples of characters that would have hurt even more, but also characters that had less room to grow.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because like, even though we do get a little bit more development on Rachel, I think at that point, like, the core of her arc had kind of finished. And motherfucker, that would have hurt me a lot more.
Yeah.
I love Rachel.
Rachel is my second favorite Undersider. I think Regent's my favorite at the end of the day.
Boy.
But I think Rachel's really cool, but I still wish, on a storytelling perspective, that she died there. It would have killed me. But,
I would have been devastated.
Yeah, what would a time skip Regent look like? What would a Regent in Arc 30 look like, man? Just think about that. That would have been
He's just
fascinating.
Like, nice.
Anyway.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that that really gets to the bottom of it, where we talked about the Garo scene. We talked about how we didn't need so much fluff to get to that scene, but how that scene is the best part of this arc, I think. Yeah. When Scion is in the building, Scion's in the house. This is another time where I'm annoyed at how much he's holding back. I get that Scion doesn't want to obliterate everything because he's not done going through his rage, right? He's not done with his experimenting. I don't see why he doesn't more often just eliminate capes. He still has humans to experiment on. There are still other capes that he can fight if he wants to. It doesn't seem like he cares too much about like having a fair fight or challenging himself in an Eidolon way. He just kind of lets groups of capes kind of live. He could have easily killed everyone here, and it would have only been 5 capes that he kills. So it's like, it's really convenient that he goes horror movie villain in these scenes, where he just slowly walks towards them, even though he's in huge amounts of rage because he's seeing the deceased corpse. Or like, it was really hard to comprehend the visuals here, but apparently like there's like a fleshy thinker entity body being formed here, and he like puts it out of its misery.
Yeah, I want someone to go in Microsoft Paint and sketch us the garden of the thinker entity here.
Yeah, because it sounded wild, and I'm glad that you picked Paint.
Yeah, not Photoshop.
Because that is the quality that the Roundabout cast deserves. But yeah, that kind of annoyed me, but it was tense either way. They dropped a building on him, which is cool. Scion's a horror movie villain. Scion kills the corpse. There's a moment in 29.9 where Taylor concludes that she's strongest and most helpful when she's the most scared. Kind of relates to what we were saying last arc. It kind of relates to what Gru was saying about her all along. That these high tension situations is where she thrives. And you know what? With 26, how she spent the last 2 years of her life building up to a high stress situation the whole time. It was the whole thing keeping her going. Yeah. I can safely say Gru was unfortunately super right.
And I really like this one particular line she says in 29.9 before she resolves to let Panacea jailbreak her power. Like, we were just talking about her talk with the Regent Memorial, where she specifically says, like, you were a monster, but maybe we had that in common. And she uses the word monster in this chapter again, where... Yeah. She right before she decides to go through with this, she's like, you know what? Maybe I am a monster.
And I have that quote. She's like, I'm a bit of a monster, and I can't put the blame on my passenger. So we haven't talked about it, about my overarching theory that I didn't believe that the passengers impacted people to do more violent things. Rather that they chose people, and by having powers, human nature were making people be more violent. But I feel like too much has disproved that, unfortunately. But you know what? I'd like to do some more exploration to that into the future. But either way, this line kind of helped at least support my idea, where it's like a hint where it's like, all these monstrous things I did, I've been blaming them on my passenger, but really they were me all along. I don't know. My theory could have legs, but Echidna, though.
Yeah, this entire arc, like, I really think specifically for Taylor, it is more that she is this kind of person rather than her passenger influencing her.
Yeah, and the passenger ends up being a coping mechanism, another compartment for her.
Because a big part of this arc, you know, they do this entire infiltration into the Cauldron base. And a lot of it is under the guise like, oh, you know, we need to find a way to maybe hurt or kill Scion. Well, I think that is partially Taylor's mission, like, oh, I want to find a way to hurt or kill Scion. I think her real objective in doing this, more specifically, is she wants to get more powerful. Because when they finally find the Doctor, those are the questions Taylor's asking. Like,
Yeah.
is it possible for me to take one of those? Can I have a third trigger event?
That's a
So
good
it's
point.
like-
And you know what? It's kind of hidden because Scion's putting the pressure on them. So it's kind of left ambiguous there. Where is it a last ditch effort, or is this kind of her way to do what she wanted to do all along when she got here? Interesting. I never thought of that. Let's talk about the interlude real quick. It's a Contessa interlude.
Yeah, and at the beginning we kind of get to see the thinker entity's perspective.
Right. The main takeaway here is that when she's doing the shard exchange, she says she obtains imagination. That's very interesting.
Cool.
I even asked, it's like, oh, is she capable of imagination? Because Scion's not able to. Some good it did her, because as she's imagining, I was so incredibly confused in this next part, where she's having a flash forward of like the optimal route where she and Scion are working together with other heroes, and they're getting to this big conflict hundreds of years from now. And
yeah, she is able to be like, she's able to look at a world and be like, okay, let's say we choose this one. What does it look like? And she's able to use a shard to be like, okay, 70 years from now, there's these warring factions, and this cape is conspiring with this cape. And it kind of shows like how borderline necessary the thinker's role is, and them being successful, because she can plan everything out.
Yeah. And in a split second, that optimal future is taken away from her as she crashes into Earth. That's what you said?
Basically,
My confusion... There's a confusion I have with that. With the idea of an entity crashing onto a planet. Aren't they supposed to be like Omega, like the size of multiple planets?
I know their size is kind of nebulous, in that they cast off like ridiculous amounts of shards. But I want to look kind of more into the biology of these things on the wiki, maybe. To see what's going on there.
We won't worry about it then for our discussion. Maybe you guys can leave in the comments, or we can look at it later. Did she crash on a different Earth? Is Contessa... I was unclear. Is Contessa's from like a... She's not from LF or Bet, is she?
Yeah, she's from a totally different Earth.
Interesting. Okay.
And then so back in our Arc 27 talk, I said I would talk about this when we got to the Arc 29 interlude, about how I think this interlude has a brief moment that kind of, I think, makes the theory that Eidolon is responsible for the Endbringers slightly more viable.
Oh yeah, lay it on me.
I don't know if necessarily Eidolon's shard created the Endbringers from scratch. I think rather his shard might have subconsciously released the Endbringers, and that they were already made. We see the Thinker entity in these visions of the future. She talks about these created, she refers to them as super weapons, and they take the forms of things like this gigantic crystal lion that is able to take on like they I don't know, they refer to this giant crystal lion as
they're
a
like
super
Gen
weapon.
7 Endbringers. Like we're on like 30 and 40 now.
Yeah, there's several of these things that she's able to like describe, and they give off the vibe as Endbringers.
Fuck. Okay, I was so confused from being in that flash forward that I didn't absorb any of that.
So I got the idea that maybe like Endbringers are a kind of tool that the entities prepare as they go towards Earth, because she clearly already had these things in mind. So I wonder if Eidolon's shard just like released these things.
Totally makes sense, right? But that is so like wibbly wobbly, which to me is no problem. But when Worm's big strength is how tight everything is, it's weird that we don't have a direct word of God there, where it's like the shard quote unquote release these pre-prepared monsters from other shards. It's like, How does that work in this super sci-fi strict story?
Yeah,
Oh.
I should clarify that is like very much a headcanon. So
It'll do.
Yeah.
If you guys have non-head cannons, like proper cannons,
Yeah, if there's a
please
non-headcanon,
point those cannons towards us and fire those answers my way. If you guys know,
because there's like the gigantic, and when I mean gigantic Word of God repository that I still haven't been able to sift all the way through, so there might be an answer in
that's where you learn that Jack Slash likes Mai Tais.
I actually learned it in I think it was in the end of Arc 26 where he's talking to Theo.
No, yeah, he definitely brings it up, which I was gonna try to do a gotcha on you because I was like, did you know? But you knew. Whatever.
I did learn in the Word of God repository about Crawler's hyper advanced testicles.
We talked about these before.
He's like, well, I was like, no, Crawler's testicles wouldn't be on the outside of his body. He's too advanced for that.
I like how the entity sizes are nebulous, like Crawler's chest, and how he fits in that building. It's all.
Yeah, we never. No one ever answered our question about Crawler's chest.
Man, they fucking tried. Anyways, so Contessa and the Doctor, they meet in this chapter, and they kill like the writhing remains of the entity. That's correct? That's what's happening there?
Yeah, I think this was like the entity had crash landed when it was in the process of trying to make its avatar, kind of like Scion did.
Yeah.
And so I think this thing they killed was kind of like some fundamental like very necessary part of its biology.
And then they built the garden around these remains.
Yeah, it's like if they didn't straight up kill it, they like made it brain dead or something.
That's the vibe I got, because Scion was kind of like, I got the impression that he was putting it out of its misery. Oh, I got burps.
Yeah, I think I see it more as like, yeah, it's like brain dead at this point.
That's why they said we saved the world once.
Hey.
It's really cool being in Fortuna's head. It's just cool seeing how she operates. Not much to say except this chapter goes on with the Garou thing, where by the end of the chapter I walked away with a feeling where it's like I can see how long they've been putting this plan together, and I can see why, because they saw the monstrosity that was the Thinker, and they were just like, we need to prepare for that counterpart.
Yeah.
And we will do anything that it takes.
And I know one thing in this interlude, like we kind of get to see the early days of Cauldron where they first start experimenting on people, and they like kind of actually care who the people are, like knowing their names and who they are as a person.
Yeah.
And as it goes on, they kind of lose that.
It's a really good way of showing the apathy that they acquire. It's back when Dr. Mother still lost sleep over those things, you know.
Ooh.
No longer.
No longer.
And then
Contessa meets up with Teacher, and we love him. So,
anyways, they're like,
well, actually, the end of this chapter is actually badass.
Yeah, where, it's like we got a situation.
Yeah, it's funny because 29.9. Taylor's like, okay, we're gonna modify my power, and then she ends the chapter saying, and then it all went wrong. And then at the end of this chapter, we learn that maybe. So the end of this chapter would take place after the beginning of Arc 30, like a little bit.
I feel like it's like in 2 or 3.
Yeah, because Teacher finds Contessa and is like, okay, we kind of need. We might need the help of your abilities here. And she's like, I can't do anything when Scion's on the table. He's like, I'm not talking about him.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a little girl you might be familiar with. And she's like, Weaver?
Oh, so this is even after she attacks the camp?
Maybe.
So it would be in 4 or 5 then that this happens, because I believe that's 3.
At this particular moment, like...
We're talking about spoilers. Wait, hold up.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, we're done with 29.
Hey.
Well, we'll talk about 30 in the next installment of Take That You Worm. I almost said the other better show.
Yeah, you're right.
Goodbye, everyone.